Chapter 185. At this moment, Shaluk and Ivan's expressions were gloomy. At that moment, they also felt the arrival of death. They almost ended up like Johansson. The action of Hermit Yuan Qing shrinking the golden halo of the Requiem bell made them suspicious. Who knew if Hermit Yuan Qing would do the same thing and abandon them decisively? However, the two of them also knew that under such circumstances, they could only follow Hermit Yuan Qing and move forward. If they stayed here, not only would they have to face the siege of many spirit nourishment ghosts, but they also had to be wary of Jiang Xi, Xian Tian, and the others behind them. Damn it! They were both angry and unwilling to accept this. Not only the two of them, but also the few directors of the Liberal Alliance who were still alive. Except for Ma Jinhai, the others' expressions were not good. Their thoughts were the same as Shaluk and Ivan. They were all suspicious of Hermit Yuan Qing. Perhaps in the eyes of Hermit Yuan Qing, they were not that important and could be abandoned at any time. This sudden change caused the people of the Liberal Alliance to have discrete differences. However, they did not show their differences now because they still had to work together to break out of the siege of the spirit nourishment ghosts. Although the attacks of the ox-headed soldiers and horse-faced soldiers were still fierce, the appearance of the two gold core ghosts just now made them a little chaotic. The order of their attacks was not as neat as before. This gave Hermit Yuan Qing and the others a chance. Hermit Yuan Qing's eyes lit up. He suddenly slapped his palm. The huge momentum directly slapped dozens of spirit nourishment ghosts away. The powerful power was definitely on the same level as Xian Tian and Li Baibai. This attack made everyone's heart tremble. They did not dare to reveal their resentment. Hermit Yuan Qing, who was covered in a black robe, sneered. He could guess what these people were thinking, so he used all his strength to intimidate them. So what if you're in the spirit nourishment realm? We'll reach the next palace soon. The things there can help me reach the gold core realm. By then, I'll be the strongest person in this era. Hermit Yuan Qing was full of ambition. Then, he no longer hid his strength. His spiritual power surged, and he slapped out powerful palm prints. The ox-headed soldiers and horse-faced soldiers who were only in the early stage of the spirit nourishment realm could not stop Hermit Yuan Qing. In addition, the others were also attacking. They relied on the protection of the Requiem bell's golden halo and completely ignored the attacks of the two spirit nourishment ghosts. They kept charging forward. In just a few breaths, they finally rushed out of the evil heaven palace. Moo, the bull-headed and horse-faced soldiers were indeed unable to leave the evil heaven palace. They could only howl incessantly on the ghost path. At the entrance of the evil heaven palace, of course, Hermit Yuan Qing, 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 and the others. Almost the same as me. Li Baibai frowned. He is indeed very strong and very mysterious. Yuan Qingshan. I have never heard of this person before. I don't know what kind of fortuitous encounter he had that allowed him to cultivate to the late stage of spirit vessel without anyone noticing. Xian Tian shook his head slightly. However, his tone did not change. He was full of confidence in his own strength. No matter what, we have to catch up to them first. Those two golden core stage cultivators don't seem to be able to act recklessly. Let's take advantage of the chaos and rush over. Xian Tian said. Then, they all strengthened their attacks and tried their best to break through. The ox-headed soldiers and horse-faced soldiers on the evil heaven palace's ghost path were already in chaos. When the Liberal Alliance people rushed over, they became even more chaotic. They stood at the edge of the evil heaven palace and roared. They lost their original order and could not effectively stop Jiang Xi and the others. With Riverward, Xian Tian, and Li Baibai at the front, the speed at which they killed the ghosts would only be faster than the people of Qingshan. The only thing they lacked was the protection of the Requiem bell. However, before breaking through, Jiang Xi took out all the remaining Requiem talismans. Everyone had a few. If the Requiem talismans lost their effectiveness, they would replace them with new ones. Moo! The ox-headed soldiers and horse-faced soldiers in the spirit nourishment realm wanted to gather again to stop them. But it was difficult to restore order in such a chaotic situation. This was a chance for Jiang Xi and the others. After a while, they rushed out of the evil heaven palace. The ox-headed soldiers and horse-faced soldiers could no longer be seen on the empty ghost path. Raising his head, Zhang Xian could see that there was a palace ahead of him as he continued along the ghost path. Before they climbed the mountain, they had seen several palaces on Fengdu Mountain. Now they had broken through the Jew Heaven Palace and the Evil Heaven Palace and encountered wandering souls, ox-headed soldiers, and horse-faced soldiers. What would be next? It's the Liberal Alliance. They are about to reach the next palace. Jiang Xi's eyes narrowed slightly. He was very careful to observe the environment. As soon as he rushed out, he was observing the situation around him. Looking carefully, he found that there were more than a dozen small figures above the ghost path. They were approaching the equally majestic palace above. Catch up! Everyone did not stop. They picked up their speed and went up at full speed. On the ghost path of the Evil Heaven Palace, the ox-headed soldiers and horse-faced soldiers had reorganized their ranks and occupied one side of the ghost path. Dong dong dong. Two gold core stage ox-headed ghost spirit and horse-faced ghost spirit that were 10 times larger than them walked out of the gray fog outside the ghost path. Ah no, are we just going to let them pass? The horse-faced ghost spirit actually spoke human language. The ox-headed ghost spirit said snappily, "What else? This is what Granny asked us to do. She said we only have one chance to attack. Then we can only attack once. Just now, if I had made the first move, then with my great strength oxhorn trident, I could have made them all stay here. You just had to fight with me. Now that we've made a move together, they've all found an opportunity to charge over. I'm obviously faster. You're the one who fought with me, okay?" The horse-faced ghost spirit was unwilling. "I don't want to argue with you. Anyway, Granny will take care of them." The ox-headed ghost spirit snorted. Then, he seemed to be reluctant and said, "An little Ma, outside, you must call me Brother Nyo. Brother Nyo. Do you understand? I've said it 800,000 times. How many times do you want me to repeat it? Then why don't you call me Brother Ma? I was born half an hour earlier than you." "Bullshit," Granny remembered it wrong. "How dare you swear? Let's go and find Granny to judge. Let's go." "Who's afraid of you?" The two huge gold core stage ghost spirits retreated into the depths of the gray fog. On the other side, Jiang Xi and the others climbed up the ghost path quickly. Jiang Xi was constantly paying attention to the situation on both sides of the ghost path. At the same time, he was puzzled. Along the way, there was no danger and no strange ghosts to stop them. Could it be that after passing 2 levels, they would pass the level? Or, just like playing a game, there was a big boss waiting for them at the end? Chapter 186. In the strange silence, Jiang Xi and the others approached the third palace of Fengdu Mountain. Tomorrow Palace. Everyone looked at each other. Finally, there was a normal name. The first 2 palaces were either absolute or evil. It didn't sound like a good place. And the Tomorrow Palace in front of them gave them a feeling of brightness. In the depths of the palace, there was a bright fire flickering constantly, as if it could dispel the gloominess here. Where are the people from the Liberal Alliance? Xu Luan wondered. The others were also observing around. It was very quiet. There were no sounds of fighting in the Tomorrow Palace. Could it be that they have already passed? It's impossible to be so fast. They spent at least half an hour in the first 2 levels. Even with the help of the Requiem Bell, the Liberal Alliance couldn't rush over in just a quarter of an hour. "Everyone, be careful," Jiang Xi reminded. He had never let down his guard. His sharp spirit sense told him that there seemed to be a terrifying existence in the palace that had been watching them in the dark. Xian Tian and the others nodded solemnly. They also felt it. But they had already chased them here. It was obviously impossible to retreat now. This time, they must make the people from the Liberal Alliance stay here. Then, everyone carefully approached the Tomorrow Palace. They could clearly feel the temperature rising. There seemed to be a flame burning in the palace. When they reached the entrance of the Tomorrow Palace, it was still very quiet. Was it really safe? They observed the Tomorrow Palace and found that it was different from the previous two palaces, the Absolute and Evil Palaces. There was no grey fog in the Tomorrow Palace. With the Ghost Path as the boundary, in the desolate space on the left side of the palace, there was an ancient tree with white skin and red leaves. The ancient tree emitted an inexplicable aura as if it had existed for many years. This wasn't the focus of Jiang Xi and the others. Their attention was attracted by the scene on the right. They finally understood why there was no movement in the palace. In the desolate space on the right, near the Ghost Path, there was a nearly 10-meter-tall alchemy furnace. Under the alchemy furnace, there was a faint blue flame burning. The flame looked eerie, but the temperature it emitted was extremely high. The source of the fire in the Tomorrow Palace was here. It seemed like something was being refined inside the furnace. At this moment, Hermit Yuanqing, Sharuk, Ivan, and another masked Freedom Alliance director were sitting cross-legged in the four directions of the cauldron. The four people's hands were all forming seals non-stop. The seals condensed from spiritual energy were constantly being slapped on the furnace. Is this alchemy? This thought flashed through the minds of Jiang Xi and the others, and they were somewhat bewildered. Who was the other person wearing a mask? The Liberal Alliance actually has two spirit-gathering stage martial artists? The black-robed hillman Yuanqing had already noticed that Jiang Xi and Xian Tian had caught up to him, but he remained calm. The pill is about to be formed. What's the point of coming here? The man from Yuanqing Shan sneered. He said to Shaluk and the others, "You guys go and stop the people outside. I will finish the last few seals." Both Sharuk and Ivan hesitated. Who knew if the people from Yuanqing Shan would kill the donkey after it had outlived its usefulness? What? You don't believe me? The man from Yuanqing Shan's voice became colder. That kind of gloominess seemed to merge with the surrounding gloominess. Of course we believe you, but you have to be quick. We can't stop them for long. Ma Jinhai, who was wearing a mask, stood up and walked towards the ghost path of the Ming Tian Palace. Shaluk and Ivan looked at each other and followed him. It was not up to them whether they believed him or not. After all, the man from Yuanqing Shan was the strongest. The remaining 6 directors of the Liberal Alliance, led by Feng Xian and Sam, were waiting on the ghost path to prevent Xian Tian and the others from attacking. On the ghost path outside the Ming Tian Palace, Jiang Xi and Xian Tian had already made up their minds. After some observation, they could confirm that there was no danger in the palace. Otherwise, the people from the Liberal Alliance wouldn't have stayed inside for so long. Charge in. Xian Tian raised his long saber, and his aura erupted. This was the place to take care of the Liberal Alliance. A total of 8 spirit-nurturing experts from the Xia Kingdom rushed into the palace along the ghost path and attacked the people from the Liberal Alliance. Feng Xian. Jiang Xi's gaze locked onto Feng Xian. This person was the first truly powerful enemy he encountered when he first stepped on the path of martial arts. Although their positions were reversed, and Feng Xian was no longer his opponent, he was still an enemy. No matter how great the disparity in strength was, he still had to be dealt with. Kill! Jiang Xi didn't show any mercy. His speed suddenly increased, and he instantly disappeared from his original spot. Jiang Xi. Feng Xian was frightened and wanted to dodge. However, a sword light pierced through space at an unimaginable speed and pierced his chest. Pooh! Instant kill. A rank warrior was like a little chick in front of Jiang Xi. In terms of killing speed, even Xian Tian couldn't compare to him. After Jiang Xi killed a person, Xian Tian's saber had just slashed out. At this moment, Jiang Xi's attack shocked the remaining 5 members of the Liberal Alliance. These 5 were all rank warriors from foreign countries. With Sam as the leader, they no longer had any thoughts of resisting and turned to flee. Can you escape? Jiang Ci was expressionless. No one could escape from his pursuit. This scene made Xian Tian, Li Baibai, and the others stunned. It seemed that they didn't need to make a move as Jiang Ci alone could deal with them. This kid, I have a feeling that he will surpass me next time. Xian Tian shook his head. It's not a feeling, it's a certainty. Huang Kun laughed. The others laughed as well, but they didn't say anything about jealousy. This was because they were all spirit-accumulating warriors who stood at the peak of martial arts in Dexia Kingdom. They considered the future of Dexia Kingdom and naturally hoped that there would be more and more geniuses like Jiang Ci. In the distance, Jiang Ci couldn't hold back his speed after he unleashed his speed. His figure flickered continuously, and 3 of the remaining 5 members of the Liberal Alliance fell. At most, the other 2 would die in 5 seconds. At this moment, Shahrukh, Ivan, and Ma Jinhai, who was wearing a mask, rushed over. Ma Jinhai formed a fist seal and threw a tyrannical attack directly at Jiang Ci. Jiang Ci leaned to the side to meet the attack with his sharp spiritual sense. He found a sense of familiarity from the masked man. Ma Jinhai. Jiang Ci exposed the other party's identity. The last time he went to the Ma family of the Chang and local government, he had a short fight with Ma Jinhai and remembered his aura. Ma Jinhai had some kind of connection with the Liberal Alliance, but after they caught up with the people of the Liberal Alliance, they didn't see Ma Jinhai's shadow. In addition, the masked man was the same as Ma Jinhai, a mid-stage spirit accumulating realm cultivation. Therefore, Jiang Ci concluded that the masked man was 99% Ma Jinhai. Ma Jinhai snorted angrily and didn't hide anymore. He directly used his strongest palm technique. Palm seals violently blasted at Jiang Ci. His hatred and killing intent for Jiang Ci seemed to have merged into these palm seals. Chapter 187. At the same time, Xian Tian and the rest were not idle. Their target was the Yuanqing mountain man in front of the alchemy cauldron. Although they did not know what the Yuanqing mountain man's goal was, they could tell that the item in the alchemy cauldron was very important to them. They had to destroy it. Shahrukh and Ivan, the 2 foreign spirit vessel martial artists, could only brace themselves to stop Xian Tian and the rest when they saw them rushing over. Both sides quickly exchanged blows. Shahrukh and Ivan were crushed and retreated. They did not dare to fight recklessly. If they hesitated, they might be killed by Xian Tian and Li Baibai. On the other side, Jiang Ci had completely suppressed Ma Jinhai. He waved his sword dozens of times and dispersed Ma Jinhai's palm prints. Although both of them were at the mid-stage of the spirit vessel realm, Jiang Ci was obviously stronger. Even if he did not use his flying ability, just the Gale True Intense spiritual power amplification was 467 times that of a normal mid-stage spirit vessel realm cultivator. This made his actual combat strength far surpass Ma Jinhai's. Our spiritual power is about the same. Why? Ma Jinhai could not understand and was unwilling to accept it. Jiang Ci did not care about his doubts. His abyss sword was like a phantom. His sword was extremely fast and slashed out rays of sword light. Since they were enemies, he could not be soft-hearted. Just like Feng Xian, he could finish them off in one go. Boom boom boom. The sword shadows and palm prints collided continuously. However, it was impossible to kill Ma Jinhai in such a short time. After all, Ma Jinhai was at the mid-stage of the spirit vessel realm. His strength was not as weak as it seemed. The situation became a little stalemate. On the other side, Shahrukh and Ivan could no longer stop Xian Tian and the rest. They did not dare to stop them anymore. Otherwise, they would be killed. Xian Tian's target was not them, but the Yuanqing mountain man. Sneaky bastard. No matter what you are doing, you will die here today. Xian Tian yelled and slashed out with the long saber in his hand. he condensed the blade true intent, spiritual sense, and spiritual power. The huge saber shadow was extremely powerful. It was as if it could cut through everything and slash directly at the Yuanqing mountain man. Yuan Qingshan's expression changed, and he quickly made a hand-seal deal. With a rare roar, he slapped the last few seals on the alchemy furnace that was nearly 10 meters tall. After doing all this, he rolled out of the pill furnace. Wang! The alchemy cauldron trembled, and the blue flames below became even more intense. There seemed to be a huge amount of energy hidden inside. The lid of the furnace was suddenly lifted and collided with Xian Tian's blade shadow. Boom! A violent explosion occurred. The spiritual qi of heaven and earth and the gloomy aura surged and raged at the same time. Like a storm, it swept through the space. The two Liberal Alliance Class A martial artists who had escaped from Jiang Xi's pursuit were horrified when they encountered this powerful storm. They didn't even have time to scream before they exploded and died. The power of the collision had exceeded the limit of the spirit gathering stage and had stepped on the threshold of the gold core stage. The faces of the people from Yuanqing Mountain changed drastically. They had underestimated Xian Tian's strength. However, at this moment, he did not retreat. Instead, he went forward again to retrieve the item inside the pill furnace. This was his chance to surpass Xian Tian. Don't even think about it. Xian Tian slashed with his blade again. Whoosh, however, a strange wind blew and swept into the alchemy cauldron. Oh no! My core condensation pills! The people from Yuanqing Mountain's hearts skipped a beat as they sped up. However, they were still one step too late. The strange wind swept out a pile of fingernail-sized core condensation pills from the alchemy cauldron. They emitted a strong spiritual aura. Among them, there were two Longan-sized core condensation pills that emitted the strongest spiritual aura. Soon after, these soul-condensing pills were blown away by the strange wind like raindrops at an extremely fast speed. Some of them flew to the Gate of Ghost while some flew to the depths of the desolate space in the palace. The people from Yuanqing Mountain chased after one of the Longan-sized core condensation pills without hesitation. This is a spirit pill. Core condensation pill. Xian Tian did not have time to think about where the strange wind came from. His gaze was attracted by the core condensation pills that were scattered in all directions. After so many years, he had obtained many fortuitous encounters and knew about the existence of a few spirit pills. Don't let Yuanqing Mountain have them. Xian Tian knew the importance of the core condensation pills. He shouted at Jiang Xi and the others, collect these core condensation pills. Then, he chased after Yuanqing Mountain. Li Bai and the others also saw the spirit pills that were flying out. 3 of them immediately went to collect them while the other 3 continued to suppress Sharuk and Ivan. These 2 were foreign spirit accumulations martial artists. They could not let the core condensation pills fall into their hands. On Jiang Xi's side, the first person to react was not him but Ma Jinhai. Ma Jinhai's attention had been focused on the alchemy cauldron. This was also the initial agreement between him and Yuanqing Mountain. He and Yuanqing Mountain would each take one of the 2 core condensation pills of the highest quality. Therefore, when this happened, he immediately struck out with his palm and stopped fighting Jiang Xi. Instead, he chased after the Longan-sized core condensation pill. Do you think I don't exist? Jiang Xi moved his feet and directly chased after him. The 2 of them chased after each other. After a while, they arrived at the depths of the barren space in Tomorrow Palace. That Longan-sized soul-solidifying pill had flown to this place and disappeared. No one knew where it had landed. Core condensation pill. My core condensation pill. Ma Jinhai looked for the core condensation pill as if he was possessed. That was the key to quickly increasing his cultivation level. Only when his cultivation level increased would he have a chance to kill Jiang Xi. Found it. With his spiritual sense and eyes, he almost instantly saw the Longan-sized core condensation pill. Ma Jinhai was overjoyed and wanted to pick it up. Whoosh! However, in the next moment, Jiang Xi arrived. At the same time, a sword beam pierced towards Ma Jinhai. What? So fast? Ma Jinhai's eyes suddenly widened in shock. He had never seen such a fast speed. Even Yuanqing Mountain, who was in the late-stage spirit accumulations, was not as fast as Jiang Xi. Whoosh! At the critical moment, he struck out with his palm and blocked Jiang Xi's sword beam. However, Jiang Xi did not stop there. The sword behind him had already accumulated power and was ready to strike again. Jiang Xi, why don't we write off the grudge between us? I don't hate you anymore. Ma Jinhai said anxiously. Are you trying to fool a 3-year-old child? Jiang Xi smiled and decisively struck out with his abyss condensation sword. Ouch! Jiang Xi, you will die a horrible death. You will die a horrible death. Ma Jinhai saw that begging for mercy was not going to work. He immediately flew into a rage out of humiliation and struck out with both his palms. Palm prints covered the space and smashed towards riverward like a wave with ferocious momentum. Jiang Xi's expression did not change. Although these palm prints looked powerful, their spiritual power was scattered and not condensed. Their true power was not great. His figure flashed as he brandished his sword, easily destroying these palm prints. Ma Jinhai revealed a look of despair. However, Jiang Xi's heart was as calm as still water. The grudge between him and the Ma family was already irreconcilable. No matter what the other party said, he would not believe it. Solving the threat was the only way. However, at this moment, the situation suddenly changed. Chapter 188. Jiang Xi swung his sword and was about to attack again when he paused. A familiar voice suddenly came from the depths of the bleak and desolate space. Moo moo moo, a strong aura came at the same time. That huge bull-headed figure was also very familiar. It was the bull-headed ghost spirit of the Golden Core stage. Jiang Xi was shocked. Without thinking, he turned around and fled, abandoning Ma Jinhai, who could be dealt with quickly. The moment he turned around, his eyes caught a glimpse of the Longan-sized spirit pill not far away. He moved his feet and bent down to pick it up. Then the Gale True Intent exploded and he disappeared from the spot. At the same time, Ma Jinhai also felt the terrifying aura coming from behind him. But before he could react, the bull-headed ghost spirit of the Golden Core stage threw the huge bullhorn trident towards him. Whoosh! The bullhorn trident, which was 10 meters long, pierced through Ma Jinhai. His corpse was left on one of the tridents, like a skewer. Ma Jinhai's eyes were only left with confusion and indignation as his consciousness dissipated. The master of a 1,000-year reclusive family, a mid-stage spirit vessel expert who stood at the pinnacle of human martial arts, was stabbed to death by a trident. Soon, Ma Jinhai's corpse became dry, as if his flesh and blood were sucked dry. The bull-headed ghost spirit flung the corpse to one side. Moo moo. A mid-stage spirit vessel human kid actually displayed speed comparable to a Golden Core stage. Let's chase after him and have some fun. And, Granny probably won't say anything. I'm just investigating the enemy. The bull-headed ghost spirit named Anyo looked in the direction of Jiang Xi's escape. Its eyes were filled with interest. Its body swayed and disappeared, but its aura followed closely behind Jiang Xi. Compared to Jiang Xi, who was using the Gale True Intent, its speed was slightly faster. This desolate space was huge, and it was so dark that one couldn't see the end of it. The area far exceeded the area of Tomorrow Palace. Needless to say, this was definitely the work of a powerful expert. Jiang Xi ran all the way here, not daring to fly. From the moment he entered the Fengdu's secret realm, he had no intention of using his ability to fly. He had seen with his own eyes that the boulder thrown by Xian Tian above the Black River at the beginning was turned into nothingness by an invisible force. If there was a similar danger in the sky of this world, then they could only sigh in sorrow. Moo! The roar of the ox-headed spirit appeared behind Jiang Xi. So fast. Jiang Xi's expression changed. That was already his fastest speed. As expected of the Golden Core stage. Run! Jiang Xie executed the gale true intent to the extreme. The gale around him howled, and it was as though he was flashing in and out of space, traversing distance after distance. The Minotaur demon spirit was also in hot pursuit. It kept making strange mooing sounds, and a huge trident appeared in each of its hands. Swoosh! 2 cowhorn tridents were flung towards Jiang Xie, emitting an astonishing shriek. Isn't it in the evil heaven palace? Why are you here? Or is it that there are also golden core minotaur demon spirits and horse-faced demon spirits in the Tomorrow Palace? Jiang Xie was a little anxious. He turned around and slashed twice with his sword. The power of the spiritual weapon, Abyss Condensation, was reflected at this moment. Clang! It directly shattered the 2 cowhorn tridents condensed by the gloomy energy. With this force, Jiang Xie dashed forward for a distance. Spiritual weapon. The Minotaur demon spirit's eyes were wide open. Its breathing was rapid, and the black smoke on its body became thicker. This human kid in the spirit nurture stage actually had a spiritual weapon. Even it, a golden core stage cultivator, had not used a spiritual weapon. It felt a deep gap. Snatch it. Even if the long sword was not suitable for it, it was still better than the tridents condensed by the gloomy energy. With a spiritual weapon, I can beat Little Ma. Moo! The ox-head ghost spirit roared excitedly and continued to chase after him. The two chased for a long time and came to the depths of the desolate space in the palace. Jiang Xie was shocked to find that he had lost his way. He was originally running towards the ghost path because these spirits seemed to have some kind of restriction and could not leave the palace area. As long as he could escape to the ghost path and rush out of the bright heaven palace, he would be able to escape danger. But for some reason, he ran and ran just now and deviated from the direction. When he reacted, he could no longer see the ghost path. At this time, an area shrouded in gray fog suddenly appeared in front of him. The strange thing was that the gray fog was still and there was no sign of movement. Intuition told Jiang Xie that that place was very dangerous. Detour. Jiang Xi's figure flashed and was about to pass through the gray fog area. Whoosh! The wind whistled, and for some reason, he plunged into the gray fog area. Jiang Xie was puzzled. It was obviously not in this direction. Accompanied by confusion, he disappeared. This is a forbidden area. The Minotaur demon spirit who had chased here suddenly stopped. It also saw the strange gray fog. Why did you come here? It was also very puzzled. Hurry up and leave, hurry up and leave. I hope Granny didn't find out about this. Otherwise, I'll have to face the wall and reflect on my mistakes again. The Minotaur demon spirit's expression changed as if it had caused a disaster. It retreated at its fastest speed. Since it was young, it had been warned not to go near the forbidden area. No matter who entered that forbidden area, they would die. That kid has fallen into the forbidden area and will definitely die. Moo moo, my spirit weapon is also gone. Fuck. Jiang Xie finally said the last word. When he looked around, he found that he was already in the still gray fog. The area covered by the gray fog was also very empty and there was no wind. What was even stranger was that there was no gloomy aura here. He quickly noticed that the ground here was somewhat different. Strange symbols and textures were carved on the ground, emitting an inexplicable charm as if they could suck in his spiritual sense. Jiang Xie was very cautious and did not dare to make any big movements. He carefully observed his surroundings. Suddenly, the still gray fog began to flow slowly, faster and faster at the same time. The symbols and textures on the ground began to glow. With such a change, everyone knew that something bad was going to happen. Run! Jiang Xi's figure flashed, wanting to rush out of the area covered by the gray fog. Bang! However, he hit the edge of the gray fog and was dizzy from the impact. There seemed to be a barrier there, trapping him here. He could not get out. Jiang Xie shook his head, and the spirit power in his body circulated faster, trying to rush out again. It was impossible to make him give up. The gray fog flowed faster and faster, constantly churning and rolling, as if it was brewing a huge amount of energy. The symbols and textures on the ground also became brighter. Bang bang bang. In just a few breaths, Jiang Xi had tried hundreds of times, but they were all blocked by the invisible barrier. He was already covered in bruises, and blood kept flowing from his mouth. No, I can't be trapped every time I come out. Jiang Xi shook his head with a determined expression. Ignoring the injuries on his body, he wanted to attack the barrier again. However, at this moment, the light of the symbols and textures on the ground seemed to have reached its peak. Buzz! There was a soft sound. The light of the symbols and textures suddenly changed, forming a three-dimensional pattern. A powerful suction force appeared from the three-dimensional pattern. Jiang Xi's figure was directly sucked in. He gritted his teeth and struggled to resist with a ferocious expression, but he found that he could not resist at all. The force was too strong. Then, he was sucked into the three-dimensional pattern. A dazzling light appeared, but it disappeared in an instant. Everything returned to normal. The symbols and textures on the ground did not seem to have changed at all. The gray fog also returned to its motionless state. However, Jiang Xi had disappeared. Chapter 189. Jiang Xi tried his best to calm himself down. The glaring light made him unable to see his surroundings clearly, but he could clearly sense that the space was constantly changing. This made his heart sink. The power of teleportation. Fortunately, in just 2 or 3 breaths, the glaring light disappeared and everything calmed down. Jiang Xi hurriedly looked around and prepared to take action at any time. Oh? He was surprised to find that the symbols and patterns on the ground were still, and the surroundings were filled with static fog. It was exactly the same as the scene just now. I'm still in Tomorrow Palace. Jiang Xi was bewildered. He walked to the edge of the gray fog and tried to reach his hand out. He actually succeeded and passed through the barrier. Jiang Xi was stunned for a moment and was pleasantly surprised. Although he was puzzled by the encounter just now, escaping was the first priority. He took a step out of the gray fog. When he looked up, his expression changed drastically. It's not Tomorrow Palace. He was still in the palace, but this palace was obviously not Tomorrow Palace. The characteristic of Tomorrow Palace was that it was barren and there was a hidden space inside. Although this palace was similarly majestic, it did not have a similar barren space. It was just a normal hall. Moreover, the building looked extremely dilapidated, as if it had experienced countless years and remained in this era. Even so, Jiang Xi could still see some carved beams and painted rafters and extremely artistic painted patterns. Presumably, if this place was still intact, it would definitely be magnificent. Where is this? Jiang Xi could not help but ask himself. Could it be the next palace of Fengdu Mountain? No, there's no gloomy aura of Fengdu Mountain here. There's only coldness and the temperature is very low. After looking around, Jiang Xi shook his head. The architectural style here was completely different from the palaces of Fengdu Mountain. Instead, it was very similar to the ancient palaces of Dexia Kingdom. The buildings here seem to be used for living. I'm in the main hall, and there's a side hall beside it. He did not let himself become flustered. He carefully analyzed and observed and came to some conclusions. How is it? Did you find anything? Suddenly, an ethereal voice sounded in Jiang Xi's ears. Fuck! Jiang Xi jumped in fright. His body suddenly flashed far away. He turned around and saw an old man wearing a simple Taoist robe looking at him with a smile. The old man had white hair and a ruddy complexion, looking like an immortal. However, Jiang Xi did not think that he had met an immortal. In such a dilapidated palace, this old man had appeared out of nowhere. He was most likely a ghost. Who are you? Jiang Xi stood far away and stared at the man as if he was facing a great enemy. The old man did not mind Jiang Xi's attitude. He waved the horsetail whisk in his hand casually and smiled. I'm Taoist Guming from the Purple Firmament sect of the Tao Alliance. People call me Daoist Gu. May I know how I should address you? Jiang Xi said his name, but he still remained vigilant. This Daoist Gu looked kind, but his words were very strange. What's the Tao Alliance? What is the Purple Heaven sect? He had never heard of this before. Daoist Ge's expression changed when he heard this, and he hurriedly asked, "You haven't heard of the Tao Alliance?" Jiang Xi shook his head. "I knew it. I knew it. 10,000 years have passed. Things have changed with the passage of time." Daoist Gu had a complicated expression. He sorted out his emotions and then explained to Jiang Xi. In the vast universe, there are infinite star regions. There are as many races as there are stars. The human race is one of the races that stand at the top of the universe. The territories occupied by the human race are controlled by the Tao Alliance. The Purple Heavens sect is one of the major forces of the Tao Alliance. The star region that we control is called the Purple Heaven region. Jiang Xi listened carefully, and he became more and more shocked. These words overturned his worldview. The Tao Alliance. The Purple Heaven sect. The Purple Heaven region. If that was the case, this Daoist Gu had a powerful background. He did not seem like someone from Earth. When he thought of this, Jiang Xi's heart suddenly skipped a beat. If Daoist Gu was not from Earth, then where was he now? Was he still on Earth? Daoist priest, where is this? This is the vast cold palace. Oh, it was called that 10,000 years ago. I'm not sure if it's still called that now. Young friend. Young friend Jiang Xi. Daoist Gu called out a few times. However, Jiang Xi was stunned. He did not hear the latter part of Gu Ming's words at all. The vast cold palace. He was in the vast cold palace now. Wasn't that on the moon? How could he go back if he was on the moon? Also, was he on the first moon? Or the second moon? Jiang Xi's heart was in a mess. Young friend. Young friend Jiang Xi. Daoist Gu came in front of Jiang Xi and called out a few more times. Jiang Xi came back to his senses. Seeing that Daoist Gu was so close to him, he hurriedly moved further away. Keep a safe distance. After saying that, he looked around and used the true intent of Gale. He flew into the air and flew to the front of the palace door. There was a similarly broken staircase in front of the palace. He stood at the top of the staircase in silence. He saw that this palace was suspended in the air. The ground below was bumpy and extremely desolate. It was the terrain of the moon's surface. However, this was not the most important thing. The most important thing was that he saw a huge blue planet in the horizon. It was very familiar. It was Earth. He was indeed not on Earth. Daoist Gu did not rush him. He just stood there and stroked his beard with a light smile. Especially after seeing Jiang Xi use the true intent of Gale, he nodded lightly and smiled even more. Jiang Xi was silent for a moment, flew back, and asked, Daoist priest, how can I go back? He knew that the key to everything was this mysterious Daoist Gu in front of him. Daoist Gu flicked his horsetail whisk lightly but did not answer directly. Instead, he smiled and said, I naturally have a way. However, I have a few questions that I want to ask you first. Please ask, Daoist priest. Young friend Jiang Xi, how old are you this year? 21 years old, 1 year old. What you comprehended is the true intent of Gale. Daoist priest, isn't it a little impolite to inquire about other people's strengths so directly? I know even if you don't say it. When you were flying just now, the wind couldn't fool me. Why ask when you know? Daoist Gu pretended to ponder and muttered to himself, cultivating to the mid-stage of spirit vessel at the age of 21. This kind of talent is only below average in the Tao Alliance. It's impossible to enter my Purple Heaven sect. However, to be able to comprehend the true intent of Tao at the spirit vessel stage and have the highest level of comprehension, such a situation is really rare. Strange, strange. The first half of this sentence made Jiang Xi feel a little unconvinced. A 21-year-old mid-stage spirit vessel stage was the #1 genius on Earth. How could it be considered below average in the eyes of this old Taoist? Was it that bad? Are you unconvinced? Taoist Gu smiled. Jiang Xi nodded honestly. Taoist Gu shook his head and said seriously, among the 3 gates and 6 sects of the Tao Alliance, there are countless people who have reached the spirit vessel stage at your age. If you haven't reached the golden core stage before the age of 20, you are not qualified to be called an elite. You can't even be considered a genius. In the vast universe, there are some peerless geniuses who are even at the golden core stage when they are born. Are you convinced now that I've said it? Chapter 190. Jiang Xi was speechless. He was deeply shocked. He was born at the golden core stage. Taoist Gu was right. He might be the #1 genius on Earth with his aptitude, but compared to the countless geniuses in the vast universe, he was not. No matter how big a fish in a small pond grew, it could not become a big fish in the mountains, rivers, lakes, and seas. After thinking about it, Jiang Xi laughed again. It was not worthwhile to be entangled with this. Because he had only been in contact with cultivation for 4 years. Moreover, he had the experience points panel. In the future, he might not be worse than those peerless geniuses in the universe. As long as he developed steadily, no matter how high his realm was, he would be able to reach it. After figuring this out, Jiang Xi's thoughts were clear and he became more confident. He took a deep breath. The most important thing now was to ask about the way back. He asked Taoist Gu seriously, "Taoist priest, you should tell me how to go back." Not far away, Taoist Gu looked at Jiang Xi's change and nodded in admiration. He was obviously very satisfied with Jiang Xi's ability to adjust his emotions. He knew that when many young people encountered such a huge drop, it was very easy for them to be unable to recover from it. Facing Jiang Xi's question again, Taoist Gu flicked his horsetail whisk and looked unfathomable. He said, "Acknowledge me as your master and I will tell you." Okay. Jiang Xi agreed very straightforwardly. Don't lie to me. You will naturally benefit from acknowledging me as your master. Taoist Gu shook his head. Jiang Xi was silent for a moment before saying, "I can acknowledge you as my master, but I still have some doubts. Why are you on the moon? How did I come here from Earth?" He suspected that his sudden teleportation from the heavenly palace had something to do with this old Taoist priest. At that time, he had already planned to go around the gray fog, but in the end, he still ran into it. It was very strange, as if he was being controlled by someone. When Taoist Gu heard Jiang Xi's words, he was a little surprised. Earth? It's the blue planet next to the moon. It's called Earth now. That's right. 10,000 years have passed. It's normal to change the name. Earth sounds better than blue planet. Taoist Gu shook his head with a smile, then said, "As for why I'm on the moon, it's because I went back to 10,000 years ago. 10,000 years ago, I was ordered by my sect to capture Yin Tiansheng, a Tao integration cultivator from the Ghost sect. I traversed countless galaxies and finally chased him to Earth. But I didn't expect that the Ghost sect's inheritance was actually hidden on Earth. Yin Tiansheng's purpose in coming here was to obtain that inheritance. A Tao integration stage elite." Jiang Xi was astonished. Previously, when he was in the Jade Pool's secret land, he had learned about the cultivation realm after the spirit of illusion, Ni Shang. Spirit vessel, golden core, nascent soul, primordial spirit, Tao fusing. Of the 5 major realms, Tao integration was the highest. Didn't that mean that Taoist Gu was also a Tao integration expert? Yes, you're right. I'm also at the Tao integration realm, said Taoist Gu with a smile. Jiang Xi took a deep breath. The person in front of him was actually a peerless expert. It was definitely not a loss to acknowledge him as his master. Thinking about it, if he wasn't a Tao integration stage elite, how could he have lived for so long? Taoist Gu came here 10,000 years ago. 10,000 years. And then, how did you come to the moon from Earth? Jiang Xia asked again. Daoist Gu smiled bitterly. Because Yin Tiancheng still opened that inheritance in the end. The ghost spirits wreaked havoc on Earth, and countless lives were devoured by the ghost spirits. In order to resolve this crisis, I used the teleportation array to bring Yin Tiancheng here. Then, using the moon as the array base, I set up the Heaven and Earth Spirit Lock Array to absorb the Heaven and Earth Spirit Chi of Earth and the Moon, suppressing them in one fell swoop. And after the Heaven and Earth Spirit Chi of Earth disappeared, those ghost spirits also lost their living space and died. Daoist Ge's words contained a lot of information, which made Jiang Xi come to a realization. He thought of many things. According to this, the Dharma ending age on Earth was caused by Daoist Gu using the Heaven and Earth Spirit Lock Array? He asked Daoist Gu about this doubt. Daoist Gu shook his head hesitantly. At first, I also thought that it was the Heaven and Earth Spirit Lock Array that caused the Heaven and Earth Spirit Chi of Earth to disappear. Then, I discovered that the Heaven and Earth Spirit Chi of Earth had been gradually decreasing since a long time ago. It can only be said that I shortened the process of the disappearance of the Heaven and Earth Spirit Chi of Earth. Jiang Xi frowned slightly. A long time ago? He asked again, then, Daoist Gu, do you know the reason for the revival of Earth's Spirit Chi? Is it related to your Heaven and Earth Spirit Lock Array? Daoist Gu continued to shake his head. It's not me. It should be related to another mysterious moon. I can't tell the specifics. I can't see through it. Jiang Xi knew that Daoist Gu was referring to the second moon, the mysterious moon that appeared with the revival of Spirit Chi. The place he was now in was the first moon, which had always existed before the revival of Spirit Chi. People had discovered it during the third revival of Spirit Chi. The Guanghan Palace of the first moon was old. The Guanghan Palace of the second moon was brand new. One was old and one was new. Not only that, I can't even see through your Earth. Unfortunately, I was only focused on chasing after Yin Tiancheng at that time and didn't have time to investigate the origin of Earth. Daoist Gu sighed. Jiang Xi nodded thoughtfully. It seemed that there were still many mysteries hidden in the revival of Earth's Spirit Chi. He didn't continue to delve into it. After all, if even Daoist Gu couldn't see through it, it was even more impossible for him to touch on its secrets. It was useless to think too much. However, my Heaven and Earth Spirit Lock Array is about to be unlocked. It can let your Earth experience another revival of Spirit Chi. You can pay attention and seize this opportunity. Daoist Gu suddenly laughed. Jiang Xi was very surprised. If the Heaven and Earth Spirit Lock Array was about to be unlocked, then what about the powerhouses of ghost sects suppressed by the array? Yin Tiancheng is dead? After being suppressed for 10,000 years, his remnant spirit dissipated 100 years ago. Then, Daoist priest, are you a human or a ghost? Don't worry. How can I be one of those ghosts of ghost sect? Of course, I'm not a living person either. I'm just a remnant spirit. After all, under the Heaven and Earth Spirit Lock Array, there's no Spirit Chi of Heaven and Earth. Even a Dao integration powerhouse can't last 10,000 years. Daoist Gu laughed. Although Daoist Gu said that he wasn't a ghost, Jiang Xi still kept a distance from him. He and Jiang Daodu had watched many ghost movies together and came to a conclusion: many ghosts didn't even know that they had died and become ghosts. Death, they forgot about it after death. It's up to you to believe it or not. I don't have much time, so hurry up and acknowledge me as your master. Daoist Gu laughed. Jiang Xi took a deep breath. After this conversation, he already had some trust in Daoist Gu. Of course, there was still 90% of suspicion and vigilance hidden in the bottom of his heart. He would slowly ponder over it in the future. The most important thing now was to get Daoist Gu to tell him how to return to Earth. He knelt on the ground and kowtowed 3 times to Daoist Gu. Daoist Gu, on the other hand, gently stroked his beard and smiled as he accepted Jiang Xi's kowtow. After Jiang Xi finished kowtowing, Daoist Gu laughed heartily. I didn't expect that I, Gu Ming, would have a disciple after death. His laughter echoed in the dilapidated moon palace. Master, do you have a greeting gift? Jiang Xi asked. Daoist Ge's laughter came to an abrupt end. Chapter 191. Daoist Gu was a little embarrassed. Greeting gift. I don't have it now. My personal belongings were used up 10,000 years ago to set up the heaven and earth spirit lock formation. Oh. Jiang Xi had expected this. He was just testing him. What if there was? Ahem, my good disciple, since you've acknowledged me as your master, it shouldn't be too much for you to do a few things for me in the future, right? Daoist Gu said again. Jiang Xi responded with a vigilant gaze. Master, we're only master and disciple in name now. You haven't taught me anything yet, no rush, no rush. I know you've already comprehended the true meaning of the Tao. First, make a Tao oath and swear to do 2 or 3 things for me. It won't be too late for me to teach you then. Don't worry, I won't cheat you. I feel like you're cheating me. A Tao oath doesn't sound right. Thus, Jiang Xi shook his head. Do you still want to return to Earth? Daoist Gu had lived for who knows how many years. How could he not deal with Jiang Xi? Sigh. Riverward knew that his weak spot had been grasped by this cheap Shizhuan. How do I swear? Daoist Gu had an expression of a child who could be taught. He smiled and said, recite after me. In the name of the heavenly Tao, Jiang Xi, swear by the true meaning of the Tao that I've comprehended. In the name of the heavenly Tao, Jiang Xi, swear by the true meaning of the Tao that I've comprehended. A complicated and extremely restrictive Tao oath was said by the two of them one after another. Jiang Xi's face became darker and darker. It was as if something had descended on him from the unseen world. Jiang Xi felt that he had been cheated badly. The biggest restriction of this oath was that if he did not fulfill the promise and complete the task entrusted by Daoist Gu, then his comprehension of the Tao of heaven and earth would never improve again. However, the handle was in the hands of this cheap master. Who knew if this old Daoist had any other tricks up his sleeve? If he wanted to return to Earth, he had to do it. Look, my good disciple. Didn't you learn something from me? In the Tao Alliance, there aren't many who know this kind of Tao oath. Daoist Ge's face was full of kindness. Holy shit. Haha, that's all I have to say. Master's inheritance and the task I entrusted to you are all in this remnant spirit. Disciple, Master is leaving. Daoist Gu laughed out loud in a carefree manner, then transformed into a beam of light and drilled into Jiang Xi's mind. You're leaving just like that? You want me to swear a Tao oath? You haven't told me how to get back. Jiang Xi was confused. Suddenly, he felt that the moon palace was very cold, and his heart was very cold. At this moment, Daoist Ge's voice sounded in his mind, Eh? You've actually practiced the supreme visualization of Buddhism? Didn't you leave? Can't it be a terminal lucidity? Since you've cultivated this technique, I must use the return of the setting sun technique to warn you. When you enter the starry sky in the future, if you meet any Buddhists, you must never reveal that you have cultivated this meditation method. Remember. The peacock visualization method was the supreme visualization method of Buddhism. Although Jiang Xi was somewhat puzzled, he could hear that Daoist Ge's tone was full of fear. Many thanks for Master's reminder. Jiang Xi thanked him sincerely. Haha, live well. Good disciple, Master is really leaving now. Daoist Ge's voice echoed in Jiang Xi's mind. Jiang Xi was stunned for a moment, then his entire person froze on the spot. Because in his mind, a huge amount of memory information suddenly emerged. It was Daoist Ge's lifetime of memories. The strange thing was that although these memories were as numerous as the stars, they did not have any effect on his own memories. It was as if a large memory card was inserted in his head, and he could read it at any time. Therefore, in just a moment, he woke up. Among them, there were a few memory information that seemed to be the contents that Daoist Gu emphasized. They jumped into his mind, reminding him that he must check them. Jiang Xi's mind moved, and he read these memory information. Almost instantly, he finished reading. The contents were the inheritance that Daoist Gu had given him, and the things that he had entrusted to him. Seeing this clearly, Jiang Xi finally understood Daoist Ge's rogue behavior just now, and he felt an inexplicable sense of melancholy in his heart. First of all, there was the inheritance that Daoist Gu had given him. It was mainly a very profound cultivation method secret manual called the Purple Firmament Sword Manual, which could be called the Tao Alliance's treasure book. In addition, there were many secret techniques that Daoist Gu had collected and cultivated in his life, which were also incomparably precious. To sum it up, Daoist Gu could be said to have taught him everything that he knew. Secondly, there were the things that Daoist Gu had entrusted to him. The first of them was related to the Purple Firmament Sword Manual. Because this secret manual was one of the most important inheritances of the Purple Firmament sect. And Daoist Gu was the only person in the Purple Firmament sect who had grasped this inheritance 10,000 years ago. His disappearance also meant that this inheritance was broken. Therefore, Daoist Gu entrusted him to definitely send the Purple Firmament Sword Manual back to the Purple Firmament sect within 100 years. The second task was to visit the descendants left behind by Daoist Ge's friend after he stepped into the starry sky. According to Daoist Ge's memories, Jiang Xi also knew the reason behind this task. It turned out that Daoist Ge's friend had once used his own life to save Daoist Ge's life. It's been 10,000 years, I don't even know if there are any descendants of Master's friend left. Jiang Xi shook his head. No matter what, he would definitely have to do this after he stepped into the starry sky. Then, Jiang Xi solemnly knelt down, facing the place where Daoist Gu had disappeared, and kowtowed again. Although they had only known each other for less than 15 minutes, the two of them seemed to have known each other for a long time. With Daoist Ge's memories, he had a deeper understanding of this cheap master. In fact, Daoist Ge's remnant spirit was fully capable of using the possession technique on him just now. However, Daoist Gu did not choose to do so, and instead bid farewell to this world in a carefree manner. This was an indomitable powerhouse. A person worthy of respect. Jiang Xi truly acknowledged Daoist Gu from the bottom of his heart. It was not a loss for him to acknowledge this cheap master. The only thing is, why is the first task limited to 100 years? Jiang Xi was very puzzled. If he did not count the memories of the old era, his age in the new era was only 21 years old. 100 years was really a long time. Then, Jiang Xi looked around the Moon Palace, raised his foot, walked to an inconspicuous place, and lifted up one of the floor tiles. On the back of the floor tile, there was a groove, in which a seemingly ordinary ring was embedded. Master really knows how to hide things. Jiang Xi smiled. He took out the ring and carefully put it away. This was the little surprise that Daoist Gu had left for him at the end of those few memories. A storage ring. Storage rings were a special spirit artifact, and could store a certain amount of items. It was a must-have item for cultivators to stay at home, travel, kill, and rob. Moreover, the storage space inside this storage ring was extremely large, and could store many things. The only pity was that he knew from Daoist Ge's memories that this cheap master did not lie to him, and the ring was now empty. Daoist Ge's belongings had indeed been used up in the battle with Yin Tiansheng. Chapter 192. Jiang Xi shook his head. One shouldn't be too greedy. He had already obtained a lot of things. Just the inheritance and lifetime of memories left by Daoist Gu were enough for him to benefit endlessly. It's my first time on the moon. Let's look at the scenery first. Jiang Xi flew up and first circled around the dilapidated Guanghan Palace. There was nothing special. There was no Chang'e, no rabbit. Dead silence, desolation, emptiness. His sense of anticipation dropped below zero. Then, he flew to the highest point of the Guanghan Palace and looked at the starry sky. The strength of the spirit-nurturing realm allowed him to survive in a vacuum environment for a short time. From this position, he could clearly see the blue earth, which was very big. Similarly, he could also see the second moon that seemed to be close at hand. Even Master can't see the origin of the second moon. The Guanghan Palace above seems to be newly built. Compared with this dilapidated Guanghan Palace, it seems to be in two different eras. Jiang Xi looked for a while and returned to the main hall of the Guanghan Palace. He gave this dilapidated palace an evaluation in his heart. It's just like this, 1 star. It's time to go back. Riverward turned around and walked towards the grey mist area, taking a step into it. Daoist Gu had told him the way to go back in his memory, which was to use this teleportation array to teleport back. However, it didn't mean that he could just walk in directly. There had to be a way to activate the teleportation array. In addition, Jiang Xi had now figured out that he was teleported here by Daoist Gu. Including his illogical plunge into the teleportation array, Daoist Gu had used a kind of bewitching technique on him. Of course, he had no complaints about this. Although this cheat master had cheated him, he had also given him a big gift at the same time. Jiang Xi stood in the teleportation array, shaking his head and chuckling. The static grey fog didn't move, and the symbols and textures on the ground didn't change. Through these symbols and textures, the teleportation array can actually teleport people to such a long distance. It's really amazing. And the teleportation array set up by Master, even if it's a small one, doesn't need extra energy. It can absorb the spiritual energy of heaven and earth by itself. Such a method is really amazing. Without a doubt, his cheat master, Daoist Gu, was an expert in formations. After sighing for a while, Jiang Xi stood in the middle of the teleportation array and sent a stream of spiritual energy into it, activating the array with a special method. A familiar scene appeared. The motionless grey fog began to flow, and the teleportation portal began to glow. In just 2 or 3 breaths, the power of teleportation appeared. Goodbye, moon. Jiang Xi waved his hand gently. He would come again next time. This was because Daoist Ge's memories told him that there was a large interstellar transportation array on the moon. If he wanted to leave Earth in the future and truly step into the starry sky, he would have to pass through this place. In the dazzling light, Jiang Xi disappeared. However, what he didn't notice was that the moment the teleportation power appeared, an extremely fine stream of light adhered to his combat uniform. Space changed. Jiang Xi returned to the desolate space of the Tomorrow Palace. Although he had already guessed that the ox-headed ghost spirit couldn't enter the teleportation array, he still didn't know what to do. However, he still carefully observed the situation outside the teleportation array through the grey fog that covered the area. After confirming it, he heaved a sigh of relief. The ox-headed spirit was no longer there. Then, he hurriedly left this place and returned according to his memories. Soon, he returned to the place where he last fought with Ma Jinhai. Ma Jinhai had already become a corpse. There was a terrible penetrating wound on his body. His whole body was withered, and his flesh and blood had been sucked dry by the ox-headed spirit. I'm sorry, I really didn't kill you. Jiang Xi mourned for Ma Jinhai, and then rushed in the direction of the Gate of Ghost. It seemed like a long time, but in fact, it only took him 15 minutes to go to the moon through the teleportation array. Plus the time he spent chasing after Ma Jinhai. It was less than 20 minutes in total. However, for a spirit accumulation stage martial artist, this time was enough to do a lot of things. Bang! 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 Before he got close to the Gate of Ghost, he heard the sounds of fierce fighting coming from there. Huh, you can't kill me. You can't kill me. There was also the wild laughter of the people of Yuanqing Mountain. In the next moment, Jiang Xi saw the scene of the battle. He saw Xian Tian and Li Baibai fighting the people of Yuanqing Mountain together. However, the people of Yuanqing Mountain were only slightly weakened when facing the siege of the world's first and second strongest martial artists. He slapped out a giant handprint condensed from spiritual power, scattering the saber light and sword shadows of Xian Tian and Li Baibai. It was extremely powerful. His spiritual power has become stronger. Did he use the core condensation pill to break through the bottleneck? Jiang Xi found the difference. The strength of the people of Yuanqing Mountain had increased. He had Daoist Ge's memories, so he already knew the effect of the core condensation pill. The core condensation pill was a kind of spiritual pill. Its effect was to help cultivators below the golden core stage condense their spiritual power. However, it was not so easy to refine spiritual pills. In addition to the most basic spiritual items, it also required an alchemy furnace, flames, and array formations. The reason why the people of Yuanqing Mountain tried so hard to open the Fengdu mystic realm and barge all the way to the heavenly palace was probably to use this place to refine the core condensation pill. That was because there was no such condition outside. That alchemy furnace, which was nearly 10 meters tall, didn't look like an ordinary item. The blue flames and array formations around the alchemy furnace were also very difficult to find in the outside world. After careful observation, Jiang Xi found that the people of Yuanqing Mountain had not really broken through. He could only be said to have touched the threshold of the golden core stage. His spiritual power had already begun to transform. If he cultivated a little more, he would have a chance to form a golden core. Even so, the people of Yuanqing Mountain had surpassed Xian Tian in terms of spiritual power. However, their actual combat strength was still a different story. Xian Tian, who had comprehended the true meaning of saber, barely had the combat strength of a golden core in the Jade Pool mystic realm a year ago. Now, he was even stronger. These thoughts flashed through Jiang Xi's mind. At the same time, he had already arrived at the place where everyone was fighting. Apart from Yuanqing Mountain, the other two foreign martial artists, Shaluk and Johansson, were still struggling under the combined attacks of Huang Kuan, Xu Luan, and the others. So many of them had entered, but only the three of them were left. Jiang Xi. When Xian Tian, Li Baibai, and the others saw Jiang Xi's figure, they were overjoyed. Jiang Xi had disappeared for nearly 20 minutes and could not be contacted. They thought that Jiang Xi had met with mishap. They were very happy to see Jiang Xi appear unscathed. This kid is not dead. Yuanqing Mountain's expression changed. He was confident that he could withstand the combined attacks of Xian Tian and Li Baibai. However, with Jiang Xi in the mix, he was not so sure anymore. We've achieved our goal this time. It's time to retreat. The ancient book I obtained recorded that one should not provoke the ancient tree with white bark and red leaves. If the ancient tree moves, one must use the requiem bell to escape. Yuanqing Mountain was very decisive. He began to look for an opportunity while blocking the attacks of Xian Tian and Li Baibai. Chapter 193. When Yuanqing Shan was young, he had accidentally entered the mountains in the wilderness around Shu Mountain Prefecture and obtained an ancient book in that cave. With the help of that ancient book, he was able to cultivate all the way and silently reach the late stage of spirit nurture, becoming an existence second only to Xian Tian and Li Baibai. Moreover, the ancient book recorded a lot of information related to the Fengdu mystic realm. Among them, he was most concerned about the Bright Heaven Palace because it had the necessary conditions to refine the core condensation pill. He only needed to gather the spiritual items needed to refine the core condensation pill in advance. In order to enter the Fengdu mystic realm, he had planned for a long time. This included working with Ma Jinhai to establish the Liberal Alliance. Then, through the Liberal Alliance, he would gather the necessary items from all over the world. In Yuanqing Shan's opinion, although there were some accidents in this operation, overall, it was a success. He had successfully refined the core condensation pill and obtained one of the two best quality core condensation pills. After consuming it, his spiritual power had already begun to condense and transform. It would not be long before he could attempt to form his core and become a golden core cultivator. Now that he had achieved his goal, it was time to retreat. Yuanqing Shan knew very well that if Xian Tian, Li Baibai, and Jiang Xi worked together, he would not be able to escape. Therefore, he had to take advantage of the fact that Jiang Xi and the others hadn't formed an encirclement to quickly retreat. Yuan Qingshan turned his gaze to the depths of the barren space on the left side of the ghost path. The ancient tree with white bark and red leaves exuded an inexplicable aura as if it had stood there for countless years. Although he did not know what danger the ancient tree posed, according to the ancient book, it was his chance to escape. Whoosh! At that moment, Jiang Xi rushed over without saying a word. The profound condensation sword trembled slightly as spiritual power surged. The condensed sword shadow pierced toward Yuan Qingshan at lightning speed. So fast! Yuan Qingshan had just made a decision, but before he could act, he was shocked by Jiang Xi's attack. Boom! He struck out with his palm, and a huge palm print collided with Jiang Xi's sword shadow. The explosive force of the collision caused a violent impact, and a sinister wind blew. How is that possible? It's almost the same. Hermit Yuan Qing was completely shocked. He originally thought that Jiang Xi was only good at speed and flying, but he didn't expect that Jiang Xi's actual combat strength was also so abnormal. He was only in the middle stage of spirit vessel, but he had already touched the threshold of gold core. Retreat, retreat quickly. He knew that he couldn't delay any longer. Jiang Xi's speed was so fast. Once he was entangled, it would be really difficult to escape. Trying to escape? Don't even think about escaping. Jiang Xi and Xian Tian shouted in succession. Although Li Baibai didn't say anything, he also increased his speed. They all sensed the intentions of the Yuanqing mountain people. This time, he had to make sure that Yuan Qingshan and his men stayed here. If Yuan Qingshan's people managed to escape, Yuan Qingshan's people would be able to reach the Golden Core realm after a period of time. At that time, it would be hard to say if they could still defeat the other party. Haha, if I want to leave, who can stop me? The people of Yuanqing Mountain laughed wildly, and their gloomy aura spread out unscrupulously. As he spoke, he continuously struck out dozens of palms. The huge palm prints formed by the combination of spiritual power and gloomy aura seemed to cover this space and spread out in all directions. Boom! 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 Jiang Xi and the other two easily blocked the huge palm prints, but they didn't notice that a few of the palm prints crossed the ghost path and hit the ancient tree with white bark and red leaves. Die! Jiang Xi shouted coldly. Strong winds gathered, and the speed of the sword reached its peak. It was like a flash of lightning, and it was about to hit the people of Yuanqing Mountain. Xian Tian and Li Baibai attacked at the same time. Saber light and sword shadows. The people of Yuanqing Mountain retreated. At this moment, the four people's expressions changed, and their eyes were filled with shock. Their speed suddenly slowed down, as if they had fallen into a swamp. This is the power of a domain. Jiang Xi was more shocked than the others. Because he had Taoist GE's inherited memories, he knew what this situation meant. This was a Tao domain. After a cultivator comprehended the true meaning of Tao to perfection, they would have the opportunity to comprehend a Tao domain. Under normal circumstances, those who could comprehend a Tao domain were cultivators at the nascent soul stage. Now, the power of a domain had appeared. Could there be a nascent soul stage cultivator here? That was an existence that could kill them instantly. Jiang Xi noticed that Huang Kuan, Shu Luan, Shaluk, and Ivan were on the other side. Their speed had also slowed down, and their movements were very stiff, as if they were playing at 0. 5 times the speed of a video, the range of the domain was very wide. Is it that terrifying existence? Jiang Xi realized something. When he had just arrived at the Tomorrow Palace, he had sensed that there was a terrifying existence that had been secretly watching them. After passing through the teleportation array and going to the moon to meet Taoist Gu, he had thought that the terrifying existence was Taoist Gu. Now, it seemed that it wasn't. Russell, everyone noticed that in the desolate space to the left of the ghost path, the ancient tree with white bark and red leaves gently swayed, as if a gust of wind had blown past. Suddenly, a pleasant child's voice drifted over with the wind, sometimes far, sometimes near. Ding ling ling, sometimes far, sometimes near. Red Fatty, your ears are sharp, listen to the bell, find the bell, white fatty, you're barefooted. Walk with your hands, crawl with your knees, squat with your knees, stand with your legs, jump with your legs, grow up quickly, red fatty, white fatty, you kick, I kick, together, kick the shuttlecock. Like a cheerful nursery rhyme, it echoed in the gloomy palace. In such an environment, it was hard not to overthink when hearing such a cheerful voice. That is, everyone's breathing stagnated, and their hearts suddenly jumped. They saw small white trees and small red trees jumping down from the ancient tree with white bark and red leaves. The small white trees were deathly pale. The small red trees were scarlet red like blood. What was even more shocking was that the lower half of these small trees actually grew a pair of chubby baby legs, and they were like children, running all over the ground happily on their trunks. There was a mouth, and the pleasant nursery rhyme was coming from them. Little friend, come and play, accompanied by the childish voice, those arm-like tree branches waved at Jiang Xi and the others. It was eerie and terrifying. Jiang Xi felt his whole body tighten, and goosebumps rose all over his body. It was even scarier than a ghost. He had Taoist GE's inherited memories, and he knew what this was. This was a tree spirit, formed by the cultivation of trees. However, trees generally needed to cultivate for thousands or tens of thousands of years to develop spirituality. Such a small tree spirit was very strange. Jiang Xi understood that it must have something to do with the ancient tree with white bark and red leaves. The ancient tree was at least 1,000-year-old demon. Little friend, come and play. At this moment, the group of chubby white and red trees had already arrived at the gate of Ghost. They surrounded Huang Kun and the others, as well as Shaluk and Ivan. They were clapping their hands, jumping, and singing happily. The childish voice sounded. Chapter 194. A group of strange white and red trees surrounded Huang Kun and the others, dancing and singing to the beat. Dancing happily, 1 2 3, wooden man, dancing happily, 1 2 3, wooden man, don't blink, don't laugh, don't cry, don't move, dancing happily, 1 2 3, wooden man, dancing happily. Hee, come and play. This cheerful song seemed to be able to disturb people's minds, making them unable to help but dance along. The game of Wooden Man, even if the people of Great Xia had never played it since they were young, they had heard of the rules of the game. Under such circumstances, Huang Kun, Xu Luan, and the others were desperately trying to control their urge to dance. They were motionless, and even their breathing had slowed to the minimum. However, for Sharuk and Ivan, there was a cultural difference. They did not understand the rules of the Wooden Man's game. Then, they moved, looking at each other with pale faces. Hee, you guys moved. Come and catch me quickly. All the branches of the small trees pointed at Sharuk and Ivan in unison. Their movements were very orderly. The branches that were like small hands waved at the two of them. Then, these white and red small trees opened their chubby baby legs and ran away. In a flash, they disappeared without a trace. Sharuk and Ivan were a little confused. In just a breath, those small trees ran back. Hee. You didn't catch me. I'll punish you. They seemed to be clapping their hands and laughing happily. After saying that, the branches that looked like small hands quickly grew and extended, entangling Sharuk and Ivan. The two foreign spirit cultivators wanted to dodge, but to their horror, they found that their bodies could not move. The invisible swamp mud seemed to be imprisoning them. Whoosh! Many tree branches tied Sharuk and Ivan tightly like dumplings. Punishment! Punishment! Eat dumplings, the little trees beat the beat merrily. Accompanied by these beats, the two big meat dumplings were shrinking at a speed visible to the naked eye. Hee. Finished eating, come and continue playing. Then, they retracted those tied tree branches and continued to clap and circle around Huang Kun and the others, singing the Wooden Man's song. Thus, Huang Kun and the others didn't dare to move. This was because when the branches retracted, Sharuk and Ivan had already become two skeletons. Their flesh and blood had been sucked dry. This scene left Jiang Xi and the others in the distance completely dumbfounded, their throats dry. In the game punishment just now, a mid-stage spirit vessel and an early-stage spirit vessel were unable to resist at all. Like a little chick, it was easily squashed to death. Even if it was them, if they were to suffer such a strange punishment, they would also suffer the same fate. At this moment, Yuan Qingshan's people were trying their best to move out of Tomorrow Palace. It was slightly faster than a normal person's walking speed. At this speed, it would take a lot of time to leave Bright Heaven Palace. Jiang Xi and the other two naturally tried to stop him. However, as they were trapped in the domain, it was difficult for them to exert their strength. There was no way they could effectively block the attack. In the distance, the white and red trees were dancing and singing around Huang Kun and the others with their chubby baby legs. They had already circled them 3 times. However, no matter how distracting their singing was, Huang Kun and the others tried their best to remain still. This time, they didn't even pant and directly held their breaths. After 3 rounds, the little trees seemed to have lost the fun of the game. They jumped away and ran towards Jiang Xi and Shen Tian. You hit once, I'll hit once. In an instant, the 4 of them didn't dare to move. It was the same scene. They surrounded Jiang Xi and the others, as well as Yuan Qingshan's people, singing and circling around 3 times. The 4 of them also didn't move. This time, the little trees' programs seemed to have been messed up. Not fun, not fun. They had already lost the fun of the game once, and they felt it again here. This group of strange little trees began to go crazy. The branches on their bodies were like snakes, dancing irregularly. They let out strange childish cries, which were extremely strange. Woo woo woo, yeah. Seeing this scene, Jiang Xi and the others didn't dare to move even more. In the next moment, all the white and red trees' branches grew again, but not towards Jiang Xi and the others. Instead, the little trees wrapped around each other, becoming tighter and tighter. Soon, the little trees huddled together. They shook violently. As if they were fusing, the little trees disappeared one by one, turning into a strange little tree. The new little tree grew rapidly, becoming taller and bigger. In the end, it turned into a big tree with white bark and red leaves. It was very similar to the ancient tree that stood in the depths of the barren space. The only difference was that this big tree had a pair of long, fair legs. They were beautiful and round, looking extremely moving. Unfortunately, its upper body was a tree. Trespassing into the Bright Heaven Palace and disturbing Granny's dreams. Die! This big tree actually let out a woman's voice. Moreover, the voice was melodious and pleasant to the ears. However, no matter how moving the long legs and pleasant voice were, they couldn't be compared to her monstrous ferocity. The red branches and leaves on her upper body were like hair, growing in an instant. Like arrows, they shot towards Jiangxi and the others in a densely packed manner. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. The sound of something breaking through the air was shocking. The power of each branch and leaf had reached the golden core stage. Danger! Jiangxi only felt goosebumps all over his body, but he found that he couldn't move at all. The domain power that trapped them completely immobilized them on the spot. Shen Tian and Li Baibai were also shocked. They tried hard to struggle, but it was to no avail. Soul-suppressing bell. At this moment, the person from Yuan Qingshan suddenly shouted. Suddenly, the soul-suppressing bell on his wrist buzzed softly and lit up with a golden light. The golden light didn't form a halo on his body. Instead, it enveloped the big tree. Humph! The big tree with long legs only let out an angry snort and stopped moving. It was as if it was really suppressed. Huh! Enjoy it! The person from Yuan Qingshan laughed wildly and ran out of Ming Tian Palace. The soul-suppressing bell helped him break free from the shackles of the realm. However, the power of the realm that trapped Jiang Xi and the others didn't disappear. Could they only watch the person from Yuan Qingshan leave? And then be killed by the spirit of the big tree? They didn't want to give up, but they couldn't move. At this time, Riverward didn't notice that there was an extremely faint light shining on his combat uniform, so faint that it was almost undetectable. Whoosh! A gust of wind blew, and the power of the realm suddenly disappeared. Jiang Xi and Xian Tian were stunned. However, they reacted quickly and saw that the person from Yuan Qingshan was about to escape. "Stay here." Jiang Xi's eyes flashed. His spiritual sense, spiritual power, and Gale true intent instantly gathered on the spiritual weapon, Abyss Condensation. Under the extreme speed, there was a whoosh. A sword light flashed like lightning and caught up with the person from Yuan Qingshan. Everything happened in the blink of an eye. What? The person from Yuan Qingshan, who had already escaped more than 10,000 meters away, couldn't react at all. He could only raise his hand subconsciously to block. There was a puff. Coincidentally, half of his arm that was wearing the soul-suppressing bell was cut off. The soul-suppressing bell fell to the ground with half of his arm. Ah! The person from Yuan Qingshan screamed, but he didn't dare to stay any longer. He rushed out of Ming Tian Palace in a flash. At the same time, the spirit of the big tree that was trapped by the light of the soul-suppressing bell disappeared. She was free. Chapter 195. Let's go. Let's try to escape. In the face of such a change, Jiang Xi and Xian Tian shouted anxiously at the same time. The two of them and Li Baibai flew out of the palace. Huang Kun, Xu Luan, and the other 4 people on the ghost path also escaped without their orders. But before they could run far, they were shocked by what they saw. The tree spirit, who had just escaped, screamed in horror as if she had encountered something terrible. Her white skin and red leaves trembled violently. Clatter, white and red trees broke away from her body one by one. Woo woo woo, yeah. Soon, she turned back into the white and red little trees. As for the saplings, they were also extremely terrified. They simply ignored Riverward and the others as they swung their chubby baby legs and directly ran towards the ancient tree in the depths of the desolate space. In just a moment, all the small trees returned to the ancient tree. The ancient tree with white skin and red leaves was quiet and unchanged. If it weren't for the 2 skeletons in the palace and the withered broken bones and rotten flesh, it would be as if nothing had happened. Jiang Xi and the others looked at each other. It was too sudden. The strange and terrifying tree spirit retreated just like that. Let's go. Xian Tian shouted in a low voice. No matter what happened, it was not good to stay here for long. Before leaving, Jiang Xi did not forget to take away the requiem bell on Yuan Qingshan's broken arm. They followed the ghost path and rushed down the mountain. Yeah. After running far away, they seemed to be able to hear the child's voice coming from the Tomorrow Palace. They did not know if it was an auditory hallucination or something else. Soon, the 8 of them arrived at the Evil Heaven Palace. There were many bull-headed soldiers and horse-faced soldiers in the spirit-gathering stage. No one dared to underestimate them. Before entering the palace, Jiang Xi took out the requiem bell, held it in his hand, and glanced at Xu Luan and Han Wenju. He was thinking about who to give it to because the requiem bell was secretly taken out by Han Wenju's wife from the Shujia. Logically speaking, the requiem bell belonged to the Shujia, but its final owner was Han Wenju's wife. At this moment, Xu Luan and Han Wenju both had awkward expressions on their faces. Jiang Xi had taken the requiem bell from Yuan Qingshan's people. If Jiang Xi didn't return it, they couldn't say anything. Of course, they didn't dare to say anything because the strength Jiang Xi had displayed was enough to make him unafraid of the hidden families. While they were in a dilemma, Jiang Xi had already made his decision. He smiled and handed the requiem bell to Han Wenju. As for the ownership of the requiem bell, it was better to let them fight amongst themselves. Thank you. Han Wenju solemnly expressed his gratitude. Jiang Xi just waved his hand and smiled. However, Han Wenju handed the soul-suppressing bell to Xu Luan. Xu Luan accepted it with a straight face. The atmosphere between the two of them eased up a little as he solemnly said, "When we go back, take some time to bring my sister to visit the old master. Although he doesn't show mercy, he has been talking about it in private for a long time." Han Wenju's face was full of smiles as he hid his excitement. This scene made Xian Tian and the others laugh as well. It seemed that Han Wenju's marriage back then hadn't been approved by the Shujia. Jiang Xi smiled slightly. He had never thought of leaving the Requiem bell behind. Through Daoist Ge's inherited memories, he already knew that the Requiem bell could barely be considered a spiritual artifact, but it was a mediocre spiritual artifact. Moreover, it was a spiritual artifact that targeted ghosts. It had two functions, defense and soul suppression. The defense function was only effective against ghosts below the Golden Core stage. If it was a ghost at the Golden Core stage, it could break the defensive halo with one blow. The soul suppression function was slightly stronger and could imprison a ghost at the Golden Core stage. He had seen it just now. The people of Yuan Qingshan had used the Requiem bell to suppress the Golden Core tree spirit. Generally speaking, the Requiem bell was a powerful Dharma treasure for the ghost hunters of the Shujia. However, it was a little useless for Jiang Xi. Compared to the profound condensation sword, it was not worth mentioning at all. That was because the Abyss Condensing Sword was an inferior grade spiritual artifact, a true spiritual artifact. Therefore, it was not worthwhile to offend the Shu and Han families for a mediocre spiritual artifact. After Shu Luan took the Requiem bell, he activated it with his spiritual power. Obviously, he knew this spiritual artifact better than the people of Yuan Qingshan. After all, it was his family's heirloom. A rich golden light spread out and covered everyone. Its defensive ability was 100 times stronger than the Requiem talisman, and it gave them a strong sense of security. This time, it was still Jiang Xi, Xian Tian, and Li Baibai who stood in front. "Let's rush out in one go. We can't stop," Xian Tian said seriously. Everyone nodded because they weren't sure if the two Golden Core stage ghosts on the Evil Sky Palace's path of ghosts would attack again. If they did, some of them might die. Jiang Xi's expression also became serious. At the same time, he was also puzzled. Was the bull-headed ghost he encountered in the depths of the Evil Sky Palace the same as the one in the Evil Sky Palace? With that thought, they rushed in. It was a quiet scene, but it made them stop in their tracks, and they were stunned. There was not a single bull-headed soldier or horse-faced soldier on the Evil Sky Palace's path of ghosts. The fog on both sides of the path of ghosts was also motionless. Everything seemed to be safe. Everyone looked at each other. Such a scene made them even more vigilant and didn't dare to relax. However, they didn't slow down. They all moved forward at an extremely fast speed. In less than 10 breaths, they broke through the Evil Sky Palace. Everyone looked at each other. It was too strange. It was really safe. Everything in the Evil Sky Palace returned to normal. In the barren space on the left side of the Path of Ghosts, an ancient tree with white bark and red leaves stood there, exuding an ancient aura. After Jiang Xi and the others left for a while, two tall figures walked out from the depths of the barren space. It was the bull-headed ghost spirit and the horse-faced ghost spirit. Suddenly, the lush branches and leaves of the ancient tree moved. "Anyo, little horse, greets Grandma Mangrove Tree." The two Golden Core stage ghosts knelt respectfully in front of the ancient tree. "Those humans have left?" The ancient tree emitted an old voice like that of an old woman. "They have left." The bull-headed ghost spirit replied in a muffled voice. Grandma Mangrove Tree quietened down and didn't say a word. The bull-headed ghost spirit and the horse-faced ghost spirit didn't dare to move. They knelt obediently. After a long time, Grandma Mangrove Tree seemed to have woken up from her sleep. Her old voice sounded. "The two of you have to work hard in the coming days. Guard the path of ghosts well. Don't let the humans come up next time." The bull-headed ghost spirit and the horse-faced ghost spirit looked at each other. "Grandma, you don't restrict us from attacking?" The horse-faced ghost spirit asked. "You can attack as you wish in the future," Grandma Mangrove Tree replied. The two tall ghosts were like children, cheering and jumping for joy. Then, the bull-headed ghost spirit said hesitantly, "Grandma, why didn't you let us stop the humans just now? If Little Horse and I were to attack, they wouldn't be able to escape. Grandma Mangrove Tree was silent for a long time before she said, "That young man with the sword has a great terror on him. Even I don't dare to provoke him." The bull-headed ghost spirit and the horse-faced ghost spirit widened their eyes in shock and fear. An existence that even Grandma Mangrove Tree was afraid of? Fortunately, they didn't attack just now. Chapter 196. The Ju Tian Palace at the foot of Fengdu Mountain was just as Jiang Xi and the others had expected. The ghost path was empty. Sure enough, the wandering souls here had also disappeared. Could it be that it was like playing a game where the monsters were gone after clearing the level? Jiang Xi was a little disappointed. He had wanted to farm a wave of experience points in the Ju Tian Palace. In addition, they did not see any traces of Yuan Qing's people. It seemed that they had escaped. They still had not gotten rid of the most mysterious founder of the Liberal Alliance. "Let's leave the Fengdu mystic realm first," Xian Tian said in a deep voice. Then, the 8 of them returned along the way they came. Jiang Xi turned around and glanced at Fengdu Mountain. This black mountain seemed to be able to pierce through the sky. This time, they had only reached the bright heaven palace halfway up the mountain. They had no idea what else was up there. The dark sky was like a covering the top of Fengdu Mountain. There seemed to be an inextinguishable flame burning above, and the fire it emitted brought some light to this world. The inheritance of the ghost sect is at Fengdu Mountain. Back then, Daoist Gu chased after the ghost sect's path integration expert, Yin Tiancheng, and came to Earth. Yin Tiancheng's destination was the Fengdu Mountain in the Fengdu mystic realm. "My strength is still too low." Jiang Xi shook his head. With his current strength, he could not even break through the bright heaven palace. That ancient tree with white bark and red leaves was definitely a terrifying existence whose strength far exceeded his. Its cultivation was at least at the nascent soul stage. Jiang Xi decided to go back and keep a low profile for a while. He felt that it was very dangerous to come out without the strength of the golden core stage. The 8 of them returned the way they came and soon arrived at the spatial door. Then, they passed through the spatial door and returned to the stone cave. Looking at the deep spatial door, everyone's expressions were very solemn. Because in the end, they did not find a way to close the spatial door. And from the looks of it, Yuan Qing's people were not there either. Otherwise, Yuan Qingshan's people would have closed the door when they escaped. However, there was also good news. They had confirmed that those ghosts could not leave those palaces. For the time being, they did not have to worry that the ghosts would rush out and bring disaster to the Great Xia Kingdom. That being said, it was still necessary to take precautions. From the looks of it, the danger level of Fengdu's secret realm is 1 level higher than Yi Mountain. "Elder Huang, Shu Luan, I'll have to trouble you this time." Xian Tian looked at the 2 of them. Huang Kuan nodded. "I will arrange for a new dark suppression army to be set up here. When the time comes, the Shu Jia will also participate." Shu Luan also said, "Don't worry, I will send the Shu Jia's elites to guard this place together with the underworld army." With just a few words, the 3 of them confirmed the establishment of an army. It could also be seen how much importance everyone placed on the Fengdu mystic realm. Jiang Xi didn't interrupt. He wasn't good at politics. Professional matters should be left to the professionals. After they finished their discussion, it was time to distribute the spoils. This time, everyone entered the Fengdu's secret realm mainly to investigate the situation inside, but there were also additional gains. It was those soul-solidifying pills. At that time, after Daoist Yuan Qingshan succeeded in refining the pills, Xian Tian went to stop him. In the end, a strange wind appeared and blew the refined soul-solidifying pills to various places in Bright Heaven Palace. Later, under Huang Kun and the others' search, almost all of them were recovered. Jiang Xi understood that the strange wind was caused by Daoist Gu. His goal was to lure him to the teleportation formation. A total of 180 soul-solidifying pills will be distributed according to contribution. Does anyone have any objections? Xian Tian looked at everyone with a smile. No objections. Everyone chuckled and felt an inexplicable sense of familiarity. Wasn't this the scene when they were young and roamed the wilderness as a small martial artist team and finally distributed the spoils? Xian Tian continued with a smile. Me, Li Baibai, and Jiang Xi. The three of us contributed the most, so we'll take half. Each of us will get 30 soul solidifying pills. The 5 of you will split the remaining half. Each of you will get 18 pills. No objections, right? He mainly looked at Jiang Xi. He was worried that the others would be dissatisfied with Jiang Xi's share. No objections. Everyone shook their heads again. Everyone saw Jiang Xi's performance in the Fengdu secret realm. Although he was young, the strength he displayed was on the same level as Xian Tian and Li Baibai. The 180 soul solidifying pills were distributed to everyone by Xian Tian. What a pity! Of the 2 soul solidifying pills that were obviously of a higher quality, one was taken by Yuan Qingshan, and the other is missing. Xian Tian shook his head. The other one is with me. Jiang Xi smiled and took out the Longan-sized soul solidifying pill from his combat uniform. Everyone had basically seen the scene when he chased after Ma Jinhai. Presumably, they would also guess that he might have obtained another large soul condensing pill. Therefore, he might as well admit it openly. "Ha, you're really lucky, kid." Xian Tian laughed loudly. When he said this, he tacitly agreed that the large soul solidifying pill was Jiang Xi's personal spoils of war. The others couldn't say anything else. Although some people were tempted, they could only give up. After all, they had seen the changes in Yuan Qingshan after taking the soul solidifying pill with their own eyes. That was a chance to reach the golden core stage. No one dared to compete with Jiang Xi. Their strength was there for all to see. Jiang Xi smiled faintly. He also understood Xian Tian's intention. Xian Tian took the initiative to mention the 2 large soul solidifying pills with the intention of eliminating the hidden dangers of being guessed by others. Of course, even if Xian Tian didn't mention it, he wasn't afraid that someone would covet it. If someone really dared to ask for it, he would use the Abyss Condensation Sword to reason with them. Because this soul solidifying pill was an inferior grade spirit pill. Those inferior spirit pills couldn't be compared to it at all. Through Daoist Ge's inherited memories, he had a general understanding of spirit weapons and spirit pills. The 2 grades were divided into inferior grade, middle grade, superior grade, and supreme grade. Those that didn't reach inferior grade belonged to the inferior category. The last time he was in the heaven-reaching tower in the Jade Lake Mystic Realm, the soul-solidifying pill that Ni Shang gave him every day was an inferior spirit pill. Spirit pills were very precious. Usually, only golden core cultivators could afford to use inferior-grade spirit pills. For spirit-nurturing cultivators, they were very lucky to be able to smell it. At this time, Xian Tian said again, "Jiang Xi, come back to Xian Tian City with me later." Jiang Xi was stunned for a moment before he agreed. After that, except for Huang Kun and Xu Luan, who had to stay behind to prepare for the establishment of the Dark Suppression Army, the others said goodbye to each other and went back to their own homes. Jiang Xi boarded Xian Tian's transport plane and followed them to Xian Tian City. On the transport plane, Xian Tian looked down at the mountains and rivers under the night sky and sighed. "I really envy you for being able to fly in the air and wander around the great rivers and mountains as you wish." Jiang Xi chuckled and said, "Once you reach the golden core stage, you don't have to envy me anymore." "Haha, you're right. It's very difficult to reach the golden core stage, but for me, Xian Tian, it's just a matter of breaking through a layer of membrane." Xian Tian said heroically. Jiang Xi smiled and didn't say anything. He felt that Xian Tian was a bit shocked. Because Yuan Qingshan seemed to have reached the golden core stage earlier than Xian Tian. Chapter 197. After Xian Tian finished sighing, he suddenly asked, "Are you wondering why I want you to go with me?" Jiang Xi smiled gently. Is the pavilion master worried that someone will rob me? Xian Tian nodded and said seriously, don't look like you don't care. You can't let your guard down. Just from the Ma family, you can see how deep the heritage of the hidden family is. The great condensing pill in your hand can let a person in the late stage of spirit nurture have the opportunity to reach the gold core stage. Although I look down on people who use external things like elixirs to break through the realm, those old guys who have been hiding for a long time don't have this taboo. Many of them are shameless. If they really make a move, even I may not be able to stop them. Xian Tian's words made Jiang Xi put away his casual attitude. He believed that he had the ability to fly and was not afraid of many things. But what if a gold core stage cultivator made a move? A gold core stage cultivator could fly. Don't be so serious. I was just joking. I'll say it again. Those old fellows, even if you pry open their doors and dig up their graves, they won't come out. Xian Tian suddenly laughed. Jiang Xi was speechless for a while. After Xian Tian laughed, he said, of course, I called you this time because I do have something to tell you. Jiang Xi looked at him doubtfully. Xian Tian explained, you should know that after the recovery of spirit qi, our great Xia kingdom occupies the largest territory among the 5 major countries in the world. There are 7 major prefectures. Correspondingly, the number of secret realms and ruins near the territory is also the largest. How to defend these dangerous places has become a big problem. Especially the secret realms in various places, there are all kinds of hidden dangers that are difficult for ordinary martial artists to deal with. Therefore, our great Xia martial artists generally have to bear the responsibility of guarding the secret realms after their strength reaches the spirit nurture stage. Which secret realm does the pavilion master want me to be responsible for? Jiang Xi took the initiative to ask. Dragon Spine Mountain's secret territory. It's close to Pak Sun province, said Xian Tian with a smile. No problem. Jiang Xi nodded in agreement. He had some understanding of what Xian Tian had said. The problem of the ruins in the Great Xia Kingdom was basically a passive defense. The various prefectural cities' armies and military martial artists were responsible for the defense as long as the monsters didn't attack the cities because there were too many monsters gathered in the ruins of the wilderness. With the current strength of human warriors, they were unable to exterminate these monsters on a large scale. As for the secret realms, they were basically guarded by a spirit-nurturing stage cultivator. Some of the bigger secret realms even required the Great Xia Kingdom to set up a separate army. For example, Yi Mountain was guarded by the Zhenyi army and Qin Qi, who was at the spirit-gathering stage. It was the same for the Fengdu secret realm just now. They had to set up a new underworld suppression army and the power of the reclusive Shu Jia to ensure basic safety. Another situation was that a large martial artist force like Genten Budokan could guard one or more secret realms alone because of the large number of powerhouses. As far as Jiang Xi knew, Genten Budokan currently had 4 spirit-nurturing stage cultivators, including him. They needed to guard 4 secret realms at the same time. He had heard of the Dragon Spine Mountain secret territory that Xian Tian asked him to guard when he was still wandering in the wilderness around Pak Sun province a few years ago. There were many myths and legends about Dragon Spine Mountain since ancient times. After the Spirit Qi revival, some strange things had happened there. Moreover, it wasn't far from Pak Sun province. It really needed someone to guard it. If something really escaped from it, it could easily endanger Pak Sun province. If he was asked to guard it, with his speed, he could arrive in 1 or 2 minutes if something happened. After that, the two of them chatted for a while. Jiang Xi asked about the situation of Dragon Spine Mountain in detail before he stood up and said, "Head instructor, if there's nothing else, I'll go back first." Xian Tian nodded and said, "I've told you everything that needs to be told. Keep in touch if there's anything in the future." The cabin door of the transport plane opened in the air. Jiang Xi jumped down and flew away. At extreme speed, he disappeared into the night sky in an instant. Xian Tian looked in the direction where Jiang Xi left and touched his chin. He was indeed a little envious. He could go wherever he wanted. Jiang Xi, this kid, seems to have changed a little. He feels more mature than before. Strange, after thinking for a while, he shook his head again. He couldn't figure out what changes had happened to Jiang Xi. In fact, it was Daoist Ji's inherited memory that changed Jiang Xi's temperament. On the other side, Jiang Xi flew towards Pak Sun province. He was so fast that he could return to Tongtian district in less than 10 minutes. However, he didn't feel the joy of returning home. Instead, he frowned. Could it be that I brought out something unclean? Ever since he left the Fengdu's secret realm, he had sensed through his sharp spiritual senses that something had been spying on him. This wasn't a small problem. That was why he hurriedly bid farewell to Xian Tian and prepared to use the secret technique from his inherited memory to check himself. Flying through the air, he quickly approached Pak Sun province. He didn't go in immediately. Instead, he flew into a ruined city. In a ruined building, Jiang Xi sat cross-legged. His hands were constantly forming seals. At the same time, the spiritual energy in his body circulated through his body in a unique way under the guidance of his spiritual senses. Full body check. He didn't miss any part of his body. Over and over again. After 15 minutes, Jiang Xi opened his eyes. He was still very puzzled. He had checked himself 100 times, but the feeling of being spied on still remained. Could it be an illusion? Jiang Xi shook his head. His sharp spiritual senses had never made a mistake. He continued to check, not even letting go of the combat uniform and shoes. He only gave up helplessly when the sun rose from the horizon. After checking himself 1,000 times, he still found nothing. It could really be an illusion. However, even so, he still remained cautious and vigilant. He didn't use the experience panel. What if there really was a powerhouse that he couldn't detect spying on him? Once he used the experience panel, it would be troublesome if the other party found out that his strength had increased abnormally. Looking at the rising sun, Jiang Xi let out a long sigh. He smiled and hid the hidden worries in his heart. He was going home. He flew in the direction of Pak Sun province. In just a dozen breaths, he was back at Tongtian district. Villa number 92. Jiang Daodu was on the balcony on the 3rd floor of the villa, facing the rising sun and cultivating. She suddenly opened her eyes and saw a figure flying over from afar. "Brother!" Jiang Daodu shouted in surprise. This was a big surprise. She thought that Jiang Xi would be gone for at least a month or so. In the end, he came back in one night and didn't even miss breakfast. Jiang Xi flew from the sky to the balcony. "Brother, did you catch a pet for me?" This unexpected question made the smile on Jiang Xi's face freeze. "Those ghosts aren't good looking." Next time, all right then, don't forget." Of course, of course." Jiang Xi sighed in relief. Chapter 198. After answering Jiang Duda's question, Jiang Xi secretly heaved a sigh of relief. In the Fengdu's secret realm, how could he think of catching ghosts? He was always chased by ghosts. Wandering ghosts, ox-headed soldiers, horse-faced soldiers, ox-headed ghost spirits, horse-faced ghost spirits, and those strange tree spirits, white trees, red trees, and long-legged trees. No matter which one it was, they were not easy to get along with. But then again, these ghosts did not match Jiang Duda's temperament. Even if he caught them, Jiang Duda would definitely not like them. "Let's go and have breakfast. Fried dough sticks, soy milk, and tofu pudding, which one do you choose?" Jiang Xi reached out and rubbed Jiang Duda's head. "I want all of them." "So greedy. Are you afraid that I'll eat you until you're poor?" "Yo, I'm not afraid of you. Eat whatever you want." "Aha!" The two of them played around downstairs and then jogged out of Tongtian district. They had to cross half of the city and go to Luming district's Apricot Garden district to have breakfast at a nearby breakfast shop. This was what the two of them often did in the past half a year that Jiang Xi had been cultivating at home. Occasionally, they would experience their original life. This way, they would not forget their original intention. However, what Jiang Xi did not notice was that when his hand was pressed on Jiang Dudu's head just now, an imperceptible stream of light entered Jiang Dudu's body from his body. Jiang Xi obediently played with Jiang Dudu for a week. During this period, he did not give up on checking the feeling of being spied on in the dark. In fact, he had long discovered that on the first day he returned, the feeling of being spied on had disappeared. After another week of observation, he felt a little more at ease. However, to be cautious, Jiang Xi still did not plan to use the experience panel. Instead, he calmed down and organized and comprehended the inheritance memories that Daoist Gu had left for him. In the last trip to the Fengdu's secret realm, perhaps in the eyes of Shen Tian and the others, Jiang Xi had obtained 1 large and 30 small condensing pills. This kind of harvest was the greatest among them. But they didn't know that these soul condensing pills were nothing compared to Jiang Xi's other harvest. His greatest gain was Daoist Ge's inherited memories. After Jiang Xi sorted out his inherited memories, he began to cultivate the Purple Firmament Sword Scripture. The Purple Firmament Sword Scripture was a cultivation technique, not a sword technique manual. Compared to ordinary sword arts, the Purple Firmament Sword Sutra was like the truth of the sword Tao, while the various sword principles were practical applications. This technique is similar to the general principles of the sword Tao. After cultivating it, one's comprehension of the sword will increase. It was very profound. At the very least, Jiang Xi had a new understanding of the 9 elemental sword art that had already reached perfection after cultivating it for a while. With my current strength, the 9 elemental sword art can no longer keep up with the pace. I can use the Purple Firmament Sword Sutra and the 9 elemental sword art to deduce it together. Perhaps I will gain something. This thought surfaced in Jiang Xi's mind. But now was not the time to try. Just like that, he cultivated for another half a month. The feeling of being spied on never appeared again. He was completely relieved. It seemed that it was really just an illusion. In the training room, Jiang Xi chuckled and silently opened the experience panel. He looked at the experience balance, 1926085. He had gained a total of more than 900,000 experience points from the trip to the Fengdu's secret realm. Nearly 2 million experience points. Let's see what I can deduce. Jiang Xi looked expectant. In terms of sword techniques, it had been a long time since he improved. He said in his heart, use the Purple Firmament Sword Scripture and the 9 elemental sword art to deduce once. The next moment, the notification on the experience panel sounded. Deduction failed. Jiang Xi had long been mentally prepared. It would be strange if he succeeded in one try. Use the Purple Firmament Sword Scripture and the 9 elemental sword art to deduce once. Deduction failed. He repeated this 10 times. Jiang Xi's face was a little dark. He deduced another 10 times, but he still failed. His face was even darker after deducing 50 times. Jiang Xi almost didn't want to play anymore. Although the success rate of the deduction was related to the completeness and grade of martial techniques and Dao techniques. Last time, he used the 9 elemental sword art alone and deduced 50 times, but it ended in failure. But this time, he had already added the Purple Firmament Sword Scripture. Why was it still like this? Jiang Xi was unwilling to give up and sunk into a sunken cost. Use the Purple Firmament Sword Scripture and the 9 elemental sword art to deduce once. Deduction failed. Soon, 99 times, the experience points obtained in the Fengdu's secret realm had been used up. One more time. If I fail again, I won't play anymore. Use the Purple Firmament Sword Scripture and the 9 elemental sword art to deduce once. Deduction successful. You have comprehended the true meaning of sword. Experience points plus 200,000. The experience panel has been updated. Please check it in time. A series of notifications sounded. It was incomparably pleasant. Success. Jiang Xi was extremely excited. He opened the experience panel and checked. Cultivation, Spirit Nurturing, Middle Stage 45701528000, Dao Technique, True Meaning of Gale, 81501. 5 million, True Meaning of Sword, 11 million, Amplitude, 2, 467 Deduction, 10,000 Experience Points per Attempt Cultivation Technique, Purple Firmament Sword Scripture, Peacock Visualization Experience Points, 11268085. The 9 Elemental Sword Art has finally leveled up. It has become a Dao Technique, True Meaning of Sword. Jiang Xi tried hard to calm down the agitated emotions in his heart. The true meaning of sword was the same as the true meaning of saber. They were both top-notch true meaning of Dao and were one level higher than the true meaning of Gale. Previously, when he learned from Nick Heng that Xian Tian had comprehended the true meaning of saber, he was still a little envious. That was because this type of true meaning had a huge increase in combat strength. Xian Tian relied on the true meaning of saber to barely possess the combat strength of a golden core cultivator a long time ago now. He had also comprehended the same level of true meaning of sword. Although he had lost 800,000 experience points, Jiang Xi did not feel the pinch at all. He could still calculate this bit of debt. I need a full 1 million experience points to comprehend it to perfection. Time is a big problem. Jiang Xi was deep in thought. With his current mid-stage spirit nurture cultivation, without considering the replenishment of spirit qi, his cultivation and Dao techniques could increase by 600 experience points per day. This was the limit that his body and spiritual consciousness could bear at the moment. Actually, when he first activated the experience points panel, he thought that as his strength increased, his body and spiritual consciousness became stronger. The experience points gained in cultivation and Dao techniques would increase by a large margin every day. It was only later that he realized that the increase was not much. From 30 experience points per day for grade F to 600 for mid-stage spirit nurture, it had only increased by 20 times. As for his body and spiritual consciousness that had already transformed into spiritual consciousness, compared to before, it had increased by more than 20 times. Even 100 times would be considered little. Therefore, Jiang Xi had long been puzzled in his heart. Why was the increase in experience points in various aspects of cultivation increasing so slowly every day? But he could not find the reason. Because he was the only one who had the experience points panel. He guessed that this might involve the essence of the experience points panel. With his current strength, he could not find the reason behind it. Jiang Xi shook his head and did not think about these questions that he could not figure out for now. When he had enough strength, the answer might come out on its own. Chapter 199. The sword intent requires a total of 1 million experience points to level up. If I increase it by 600 points per day, it will take 1,667 days. That's more than 4.5 years. In fact, this time was already considered fast for cultivators who had comprehended the Dao intent. From Daoist GE's inherited memories, Riverward knew that there were many cultivators in the universe who were at the true meaning of Dao stage. If they could completely comprehend a true meaning of Dao within 100 years, they would be considered very outstanding. Only those top geniuses could complete it within 10 years. That being said, for those who had cheated, pursuing the speed of improvement was an eternal and unchanging truth. Therefore, Jiang Xi thought of another way. If I have a sufficient source of spirit energy, I can offset the negative effects of exceeding my body's tolerance limit when I increase my strength on the interface. Jiang Xi sorted out the items that could provide spirit energy on his body. 1,000-year-old lotus seed, 1 inferior grade soul consolidating pill, and 30 unrated soul consolidating pills. These should be enough for a while. I'll think of another way later. I'll eat the lotus seed first. It's been 2 years. This 1,000-year-old lotus seed was a reward he received from Xian Tian 2 years ago after the battle at the Tongtian Mountain in the Jade Pool Mystic Realm. He had never used it. There were a total of 13 lotus seeds. Jiang Xi ate them all like he was chewing candy. A huge amount of spirit energy appeared in his body. With his current strength, he could completely withstand the impact of this energy. Next was the familiar process of rapid improvement. Riverward borrowed this spiritual energy and used the experience panel to increase his sword intent at full power. 5 minutes later, the improvement ended. Sword intent, 801,511 million. Jiang Xi felt the comprehension of the sword intent in his mind. His brain was a little dizzy from the sudden increase of so many Dao techniques, but it was still bearable. 1,000-year-old spiritual fruit can provide a little more than 80,000 points of spirit energy. Let's see how much the soul consolidating pill can provide. He first ate an unrated soul consolidating pill. The result was that the unrated spirit condensing pill was the same as the spirit nurturing pill. They could only provide 1,000 points of spiritual energy. Then, the inferior grade soul condensing pill, which was regarded as a treasure by the other spirit vessel cultivators, was also swallowed by Jiang Xi. After the upgrade, Jiang Xi frowned. It wasn't because too many Daoist insights had surged into his brain, causing him to feel lightheaded. It was just that the spiritual energy provided by this low-grade pill was pitifully low. It was only 10,000 points of spiritual energy. It was several times rarer than 1,000-year-old phase. Strange. Jiang Xi searched through Daoist GE's inherited memories and quickly understood why. It turned out that there were many different types of spirit pills with different effects. The condensing essence pill was a type of spirit pill commonly used by cultivators in the universe. Its main effect was to refine spirit energy. Cultivators could use this to increase the quality of their spiritual power, thus achieving the goal of increasing their cultivation. It's not a spirit pill specifically used to replenish spiritual energy. Jiang Xi shook his head. He had to take back what he said just now. These spirit pills were not enough for him at all. As for the effect of the condensing essence pill to refine spirit energy, he didn't need it. Using the experience points panel to upgrade his cultivation directly saved the process of refining spirit energy. I'd better find a way to collect phase. Jiang Xi put away the remaining unrated condensing essence pills. The phase had not been refined and were full of spiritual energy, which met his requirements. He knew that Xian Tian still had a lot of 1,000-year-old phase in his hands. He could think of a way to use these unrated condensing essence pills to trade, however, he had to find the right time and reason. Because the condensing essence pill was too precious for cultivators who needed to refine spirit energy. If he rashly used the condensing essence pill to trade with Xian Tian, it would make the other party suspicious. After sorting out these, Jiang Xi took out another item. It was the storage ring left by Daoist Gu. He had never found a chance to refine this item with his spiritual sense. With a storage spiritual weapon, it will be convenient to go out in the future. Jiang Xi smiled and began to refine it. Last time, it took him half a month to successfully refine the inferior grade spiritual weapon, the Abyss Condensation Sword. This time, he didn't know how long it would take. Anyway, there were no other urgent matters, so Jiang Xi spent most of his time refining the storage ring every day. The rest of the time was to continue to organize and comprehend Daoist GE's inherited memories. After all, this inherited memory was not only the purple firmament sword scripture, but also many secret techniques. Even if he didn't have the conditions to cultivate now, he could familiarize himself with it in advance and broaden his knowledge at the same time. In addition to this, he also had to accompany Jiang Daodu to train her assassination skills. The little girl's strength was also improving by leaps and bounds. Just like that, another month passed in the blink of an eye. New Moon Era 95, September 10th, late at night, 2 moons hung in the sky. Jiang Xi ended his closed-door cultivation. Without telling anyone, he flew straight to the wilderness. The wilderness near Pak Sun province was mostly plains and hills. He flew for more than 500 kilometers before he found a small mountain that was more than 300 meters tall. Jiang Xi stood in the air and looked down at the small mountain. This was the target of his sword test today. He wanted to test his current strength. Before he tested the sword, he first looked at the experience panel, cultivation, spirit nurturing, late stage 2670188200, Dao technique Gale intent, 108201/500,000, sword intent, 117,851/1000000, amplitude, 3, 121 deduction. 10,000 experience points per time cultivation method, purple firmament sword scripture, peacock visualization experience points, 954834, after more than a month of improvement. His cultivation had reached late-stage spirit nurturing. He had comprehended more than 20% of the Gale intent. His sword intent had also increased by more than 10%. Let's see how strong I am now. First sword. Jiang Xi pulled out the abyss condensation sword with a swish. His spiritual power surged as he suddenly swung the sword. The huge sword light suddenly landed on the top of the small mountain. Boom! It directly exploded. The top of the mountain was blown away, and the small mountain was 10 meters shorter. Second sword. He swung the sword again. This sword condensed the Gale intent. The sword light was accompanied by the whistling of the gale as it slashed the small mountain. Crash! The small mountain trembled slightly as if a small earthquake had occurred. It was shorter by another 50 meters. Third sword. This time it was a sword with the sword intent. The sword light condensed with an inexplicable Tao rhyme. It was like the King of Swords as it slashed directly at the small mountain. Rumble, the 300-meter-tall small mountain collapsed with a loud bang, and gravel flew everywhere. After 3 swords, Jiang Xi had a clear understanding of his own strength. The sword intent's increase in combat strength is indeed stronger than the Gale intent. It only increased by 10%, but it has greatly increased my strength. Although I haven't really fought with a golden core cultivator, with my current strength, I'm definitely not weaker than an early-stage golden core cultivator. Last time in the Fengdu's secret realm, his actual combat strength had actually barely touched the threshold of golden core. But it was only barely. If he encountered a real golden core cultivator, he would still be defeated. And now, after more than a month of improvement, his combat strength had finally completely stepped into the golden core level. Chapter 200. Jiang Xi was confident that he should have surpassed Shen Tian now. The world's #1 powerhouse. He smiled. If he didn't count those hidden old fellows from the reclusive families, he should be. He looked at the quaint ring on his left hand. Compared to the increase in strength, the refining progress of the storage ring was a little slow. After all, it was used by Daoist Gu, a Dao integration powerhouse, and it was not an ordinary spirit artifact. It will probably take another 2 or 3 months to complete the refining. Jiang Xi shook his head. He was not in a hurry. With the storage ring, it would be more convenient to go out at most. Then, he turned around and went home. To think that he would destroy an entire mountain on this trip, after returning home, Jiang Xi did not continue to cultivate in seclusion. Instead, he stared at the 2 moons in the sky for a long time on the rooftop of his house. The 4th revival of spiritual energy, the reason why he chose to end his seclusion cultivation at this time. In addition to his own strength, the most important reason was that the 4th revival of spiritual energy was coming. Last time in the Moon Palace, Daoist Gu had said that after the Heaven and Earth Spirit Lock Array was completely unlocked, Earth would welcome another revival of spiritual energy. Now that 2 months had passed, the Heaven and Earth Spirit Lock Array was almost completely unlocked. Should I tell Shen Tian and the others? Jiang Xi was thinking about this problem. The 4th revival of spiritual energy was a great opportunity. There was also detailed information about the Heaven and Earth Spirit Lock Array in Daoist Ge's inherited memories. Although he could not comprehend this array formation yet, it did not prevent him from knowing the power of this array formation. How high was the concentration of spiritual energy on Earth 10,000 years ago? Jiang Xi had no way of knowing the exact amount. However, there was one thing that could be proven. Earth was very prosperous at that time. Daoist Gu used the Heaven and Earth Spirit Lock Array to suppress Yin Tiansheng, who was also a Dao integration powerhouse. Dao integration was the highest realm of cultivators. They could even cross the universe with their bodies. However, under the Heaven and Earth Spirit Lock Array, two Tao integration powerhouses were killed. This array formation could not be said to be weak. And the source of energy for this array was all the spiritual energy of Earth and the Moon. One could imagine how enormous this spiritual energy was. Once released, so much spiritual energy would definitely far exceed the third revival of spiritual energy. However, when the Heaven and Earth Spirit Lock Array was unlocked, there was one thing that was different from the third revival of spiritual aura. It was the release of the spiritual chi of Heaven and Earth without any warning. Unlike before, when he could detect the abnormal changes in the spiritual chi of Heaven and Earth in advance. That was why Jiang Xi fell into deep thought. It was impossible for him to monopolize such a fortuitous opportunity. After all, the spirit chi had to spread between Heaven and Earth. As a warrior of Great Xia, he was naturally concerned about the future of Great Xia's martial arts world. If everyone knew about it in advance and was prepared, they would be able to seize this opportunity. At that time, the martial arts world of Great Xia would definitely become even more powerful. The problem was that he had to find a reasonable excuse to remind Shen Tian and the others. Otherwise, it would be easy to raise suspicions. How did he know all this? After thinking for a moment, Jiang Xi shook his head. Let's keep it simple. The more complicated it is, the more suspicious it will be. He dialed Shen Tian's number. Jiang Xi. It's 2:00 in the morning. Shen Tian's voice was heard. Jiang Xi looked at the time. Sure enough, it was only 2:00 in the morning. It seemed that he had been too focused on cultivating and had neglected the time. Jiang Xi coughed. President, I have a discovery that I feel like telling you. Recently, when I was cultivating, I felt that the spiritual chi of Heaven and Earth in the surroundings seemed to have increased a little. Wait for a moment. Don't hang up. Shen Tian's tone was a little solemn. It seemed that he attached great importance to Jiang Xi's reaction. Jiang Xi was not in a hurry. He guessed that Shen Tian should want to cultivate and experience it himself. After a moment, Shen Tian's voice was heard again. Jiang Xi, are you sure you didn't sense it wrong? I just cultivated, and the spiritual chi of Heaven and Earth didn't seem to have changed. It should be right. After all, I'm a person who scored full marks in martial arts. My perception of the spiritual chi of Heaven and Earth is stronger than others. Shen Tian could not refute this reason. I will pay attention to this matter in the next few days so that everyone can be prepared. Shen Tian did not take Jiang Xi's reminder lightly. In his understanding, Jiang Xi was steady and cautious. Generally, he would not easily express any opinions. Something that could make Jiang Xi take the initiative to remind him in the middle of the night must be taken seriously. After hanging up the phone, Jiang Xi felt a sense of relief. The next step was to wait patiently for the fourth spiritual chi revival. However, before that, there was a more important matter. That was Jiang Daodu's problem. On the night of the third spiritual chi revival, Jiang Daodu had heard someone chanting in a low voice and then fell into a deep sleep. When she woke up, her strength had jumped from level F to level C. Jiang Xi sat cross-legged on the villa's balcony, thinking carefully until the sun rose on the horizon. A cool breeze brushed past his face. It seemed ordinary. However, the corners of Jiang Xi's mouth curled up slightly. Without opening his eyes, he reached out and grabbed a cold and slender wrist. In her cold little hand was a black dagger without any luster. It was very sharp and was an A-grade alloy weapon. Not bad. Your assassination can threaten level A martial artists. Jiang Xi opened his eyes and chuckled. Jiang Daodu wrinkled her nose and said, but I still can't get close to you. Do your best. I believe that sooner or later, you will be able to do it. Perfunctory. Hey! Jiang Xi scratched her nose. Then he said, I'll fulfill your wish. In the next few days, you have to stay by my side. Stay by your side? Even when sleeping or going to the toilet? Jiang Daodu's eyes were bright and full of energy. In the end, Jiang Xi was defeated by Jiang Daodu. Apart from the two things that Jiang Daodu mentioned, they were indeed staying by each other's side. Especially when it came to cultivation, they had to be together. Soon, 5 days passed. New Moon Era 95, September 15th. On the night of the full moon. On the balcony of Villa 92 in Tongtian District. Jiang Xi and Jiang Daodu were both sitting cross-legged, quietly cultivating. He had already told Jiang Daodu about the recovery of spirit aura. Jiang Daodu also put away her playful attitude and treated it seriously. For the past few days, they had been cultivating like this every night. The moon was in the middle of the sky. The two moons were like silver plates, hanging side by side in the night sky. It was as if the two of them were sitting side by side. Jiang Xi's eyes flashed. Somehow, he felt that some changes had occurred between heaven and earth. It's here. Yes. Jiang Daodu also nodded vigorously. Suddenly, a change occurred. The two silver plate-like moons instantly became 100 times larger, covering more than half of the sky. The night was as bright as day. The two Guanghan palaces, one old and one new, also appeared at the same time. Yes, yes. Faintly, a woman's soft singing voice sounded between heaven and earth. This time, everyone heard it. The whole world was in an uproar. Could it be that someone was singing on the moon? Chapter 201. Last time, only Jiang Dudu heard the chant, but this time, everyone in the world heard it. At this moment, although Jiang Xi was also shocked, he was not in the mood to pay attention to this. Because when the woman's chanting voice sounded, Jiang Dudu nodded and fell into a deep sleep. Jiang Xi did not wake her up, but carefully observed. When the woman's chanting voice lasted for about 10 seconds. Clearly visible spiritual energy condensed like mist, pouring down from one of the moons that had become 100 times larger. Like a tide of spiritual energy, the waves surged and swept across the world in an instant. This is... Jiang Xi opened his eyes wide. He found that, accompanied by the tide of spiritual energy, there was an incomparably pure spiritual energy of heaven and earth, like small snakes, gathered from all over Jiang Dudu's body. And Jiang Dudu's body was also rapidly becoming stronger. However, in just a minute, Jiang Dudu's body stopped changing. But the incomparably pure spiritual energy of heaven and earth was still gathering in Jiang Dudu's body. What is the origin of Daodu? Jiang Xi could not help but ask himself. After observing for more than 10 minutes, Jiang Xi confirmed that Jiang Dudu would not change anymore, then he breathed a sigh of relief and began to focus on his own cultivation. Purple Cloud Sword Scripture. Riverward began to circulate his cultivation method. In an instant, the spiritual energy of heaven and earth surged like a tide, forming a spiritual energy mist cover that pervaded around him. So strong, many times stronger than the third recovery of spiritual energy. Jiang Xi was shocked. Of course, this was also related to his cultivation technique. The Purple Cloud Sword Scripture was also the top cultivation technique inheritance in the Universe Tao Alliance. The efficiency of cultivation was, of course, abnormal. Qi drawing. Refine. Jiang Xi began to absorb the spiritual energy of heaven and earth that gathered around him. As the qi drawing was refined, the spiritual energy in his body became more and more. However, he did not condense this spiritual energy into spiritual power. Using the experience panel to increase his strength was the hard way. A minute later, he felt the accumulated spiritual energy in his body. It's about time. Begin the upgrade. Increase 1000 cultivation experience. Increase 1000 true meaning of Gale experience points. Increased by 1000 sword intent experience. The total amount of spirit power in his body began to increase. The comprehension of the two true intents of the Tao continuously appeared in his mind. In less than a breath's time, the upgrade process was over. Then, Jiang Xi continued to absorb and refine qi, accumulating spiritual qi energy and improving again. Almost every minute, he could level up once. An hour later, his cultivation reached the bottleneck of the spirit nurturing stage. Cultivation base, spirit nurturing, late stage 8820088200, he had the experience of encountering a bottleneck during the third recovery of spiritual power. This time, Jiang Xi didn't waste any time to think about the bottleneck. Instead, he continued to accumulate spiritual energy and used it all to upgrade his Gale intent and Sword intent. In 1 minute, he could accumulate 3,000 points of spiritual energy. This was equivalent to 3 inferior condensing essence pills, which was very extravagant. Without stopping for even a single moment, his cultivation was rising by a little with every passing minute. Jiang Xi was working hard to improve, and Jiang Duda was sleeping. Therefore, he didn't notice that there was a subtle light shining between Jiang Duda's eyebrows. It seemed to be breathing, swallowing and exhaling the spiritual energy of heaven and earth. In the mist-like tide of spiritual energy, it was undetectable. The recovery of spiritual power this time came suddenly and ended suddenly. 6 hours later, the spiritual energy of heaven and earth poured down from the moon with the broken Guanghan Palace. In an instant, it stopped abruptly, like a pot of water that had been poured out. And the spiritual energy of heaven and earth on earth was 10 times richer than before. Yes, 10 times. Jiang Xi clearly confirmed this data through the experience value panel. He was a little unsatisfied. 2 more hours, and the data on the panel would be much better. Unfortunately, it was a little short. Cultivation base, spirit nurturing, late stage 8820088200, Dao technique Gale intent, 500,000/500,000, Sword intent, 749,861 million. Amplitude, 14. For 98 deduction, 10,000 experience points per time. Cultivation method, Purple Cloud Sword scripture, Peacock visualization experience value, 0, cultivation base, Dao technique, only the sword intent was not perfected. Ha ha ha. Jiang Xi laughed wildly, which was rare. Regardless of the strength, with the current strength data on the panel, who could beat him? Before the fourth recovery of spiritual power, his Gale intent was only completed more than 20%, and the sword intent was only more than 10%. With this, his combat power was comparable to the early gold core stage. Now, the Gale intent had been perfected, and the sword intent's comprehension level had exceeded 70%. The improvement of these two Dao techniques had made his strength have a qualitative change. 498 times the spiritual power amplitude, a unit of spiritual power strength, was more than 14 times the original. Not to mention, his cultivation base had also reached the peak of the spirit nurturing stage. His actual combat power had increased more than 10 times. Early gold core stage? Jiang Xi smiled softly, full of confidence. Ha! Brother, did I fall asleep again? At this time, Jiang Daoda woke up. She was sleeping soundly. Just now, Jiang Xi's laughter did not wake her up. You slept very soundly. Jiang Xi smiled. Well, I heard someone whispering last night, and this time the voice was much clearer than last time. Did you hear it? Jiang Daodu asked slightly nervously. Jiang Xi nodded. I think everyone should have heard it this time. Don't worry, I also paid attention to observation. There is nothing strange in your body. You can cultivate in peace in the future. With that, Jiang Xi rubbed her head again. That's good. Jiang Daodu beamed with joy. Then she checked her strength and was stunned for a moment. She exclaimed, Brother, I reached the A level. From the top C-level martial artist to the A-level martial artist. This was somewhat beyond Jiang Xi's expectations. He thought that Jiang Daodu could take this opportunity to reach the B level. She actually became an A-level martial artist directly. A 16-year-old A-level martial artist. And it was just sleeping. Jiang Xi took a deep breath. He felt that he had come to the wrong place. He was really not the main character, however, Jiang Daodu was only pleasantly surprised by this improvement. She was not as panicked as last time. This was because Jiang Xi was by her side. Even if the sky fell, she would not be afraid. The two of them got up and went downstairs. Just like before, they prepared to eat breakfast and take a walk. It seemed that the recovery of spiritual power this time was a very ordinary thing for the two of them. In the Tongtian district, the vegetation was lush and the environment was beautiful. The sky is bluer, and the air is fresher. It's as if the whole world has been reborn. Jiang Daodu opened her arms as if she was embracing the world. Jiangzi smiled faintly. After this night, these were not the only simple changes that had happened. Just now, when he passed by an old tree that was close to 100 years old, he felt an extremely subtle spiritual aura from the old tree. If there was an opportunity, he might be able to embark on the path of cultivation. After cultivating for another 1,000 or 10,000 years, he would be able to become a tree spirit. Of course, it was not the ghost tree spirit that absorbed the gloomy aura in the Fengdu's secret realm. Chapter 202. When they passed by Tongtian District Villa No. 2, they met Lu Shan. Lu Shan stood upstairs and greeted them. Jiang Xie, you siblings went out so early. Didn't you consolidate your understanding? Obviously, he had also just finished cultivating. Many of the higher-ups and elites of the Great Xia Kingdom's martial arts world had received the news of the Spirit Qi revival in advance. However, only a few people knew that the news was provided by Jiang Xie. Uncle Lu, congratulations. Jiang Xie didn't answer the question and cupped his hands to Lu Shan. I can't hide anything from you, kid. Lu Shan jumped down and came to their side. As the saying goes, people are in high spirits when faced with happy events. Just now, Jiang Xie noticed that Lu Shan's expression was not right and was hiding a surprise. He scanned with his spiritual sense. Sure enough, Lu Shan had broken through and reached Class A. Lu Shan reached Class B 3 years ago. Later, during the third Spirit Qi revival, he was stuck at the Class B bottleneck and couldn't break through again because of his aptitude. Last night's Spirit Qi tide finally allowed him to break through and become an Class A martial artist. Uncle Lu, you have to continue to work hard. I'm also an Class A martial artist now. Jiang Dudu suddenly said. The smile on Lu Shan's face froze. He felt that whatever he ate today wouldn't be delicious. Jiang Xie glared at Jiang Dudu. How could she hit her senior like that? Uncle Lu, don't listen to Daodu's nonsense. She also worked hard to cultivate, Jiang Xie consoled. Lu Shan suffered another blow. His mind was full of Jiang Xi's words. Worked hard to cultivate, worked hard to cultivate, worked hard, a 16-year-old girl. No matter how hard she worked, how many years had she worked hard for? He had worked hard for 40 years. Jiang Xie and Jiang Dudu looked at each other and communicated with their eyes. Jiang Dudu's meaning was obvious. Didn't you say that you don't have to hide your strength in the future? Jiang Xie couldn't refute. There was indeed no need to hide. With his current strength, unless someone ate a bear's heart and leopard's gall, no one would dare to have any ideas about Jiang Dudu. Even if someone really had bad intentions, he would definitely slap them to death. Lu Shan took a while to recover. He shook his head helplessly. You two little perverts. He refrained from asking how much Jiang Xie had improved, fearing that he would suffer a greater blow. In order to comfort Lu Shan's broken heart, Jiang Xie and Jiang Daodu had a free breakfast at Lu Shan's house. During this time, Jiang Xie and Lu Shan exchanged some insights on the cultivation of the A-class realm. Although it was said to be an exchange, it was actually Jiang Xie who was talking. He told Lu Shan about his understanding of the A-class realm in detail. Jiang Xie didn't feel that this was a waste of time, because when he first embarked on the path of martial arts, Lu Shan gave him a lot of help. Repaying kindness was a principle that Jiang Xie had always abided by. After staying at Lu Shan's house for more than 3 hours, he left with Jiang Dudu. On the way back. Brother, it seems that the world's martial arts world is going to have a big change in this spirit energy revival. Jiang Dudu calmly analyzed. No matter how it changes, as long as we are strong enough, we don't have to be afraid of these changes. Jiang Xi smiled indifferently. He understood what Jiang Dude meant. Like Lu Shan, there were definitely many people who became A-class martial artists with the help of the fourth spirit energy revival. In addition, the number of spirit accumulation stage martial artists would also increase significantly. Yes. Work hard on your cultivation. Jiang Dude laughed. These words were not said casually. When the two returned home, they went to cultivate separately. Jiang Xi still went to the same place, the underground training room. He didn't immediately go to cultivate, but turned on the computer in the training room to search for news and events that happened after the fourth spirit energy revival. Who is the woman singing in a low voice in the Moon Palace? Chang Yi? Or is it just an auditory hallucination? There is a change in the underground of Chang and city, and the geese flying in the air fell to their deaths. At midnight yesterday, the old tree bore fruit. Someone picked it and ate it, becoming extremely strong. In the ruins of an ancient tower in the wilderness of Peacock Country, a sigh was heard. In the Holy Alliance, a colorful brilliance suddenly appeared in the Millennium Holy City. One news after another, some were exaggerated, and some were surprising. After reading these, Jiang Xi sat cross-legged with a thoughtful look on his face. What made him feel strange was that he didn't see any news about monsters. The fourth spirit energy revival was such a big event, it was impossible for monsters to not have any changes. The hostility between monsters and humans seemed to be irreconcilable, so it was better to be vigilant. Jiang Xi was now one of the top few people in the human martial arts world on Earth. Compared to the past, he now had a new perspective on the issue of monsters. In terms of high-end strength, human martial artists are actually not weaker than monsters. In fact, they are even stronger. The main difference is below the level of spirit accumulation. The number of martial artists compared to the huge monster horde in the wilderness is too big, dozens or even hundreds of times. This is also the main reason why humans have been at a disadvantage. If a super powerful fighter appears in the human race who can easily crush all monsters, this situation might change. Jiang Xi shook his head. He didn't have the confidence to do this. The world was so big, but monsters occupied most of the living space. Humans had the hidden heritage of the hidden families, but monsters were also hiding something. For example, the dragon python in the secret realm of E Mountain and the unknown existence in the lower reaches of Xian and River were not simple. Different situations call for different measures. As long as the high-end strength of human martial artists is strong enough, humans will not be in a crisis of extinction. I wonder how many people in the martial arts world will reach the golden core stage this time. Xian Tian, Li Baibai, Hermit Yuan Qing, and the powerhouses of the hidden families. Jiang Xi guessed that someone might have broken through the bottleneck yesterday and become a cultivator of the golden core stage. Even if they didn't break through last night, the spiritual energy of heaven and earth had increased tenfold, which was more suitable for cultivation. With these people's heritage, they would break through sooner or later. Thinking of this, Jiang Xi smiled. Although he hadn't reached the golden core stage, he wasn't afraid of these people. Next, I should think of a way to form the golden core. Forming the golden core was a process. The essence was to improve the quality of the spiritual power by refining it. Finally, it would complete the transformation and form the golden core. The higher the degree of refining the spiritual power, the higher the success rate of forming the golden core. For example, taking the core consolidating pill was to use its medicinal power to refine the spiritual power. The spiritual power refined by this method was not pure. Even if the golden core was successfully formed, the spiritual power would be very impure. He definitely wouldn't use the core consolidating pill to form the golden core. This was the worst method. If he wanted to cultivate, he would naturally cultivate the best method. In Daoist GE's inherited memories, there were many methods to form the golden core. The best method of forming the golden core that he knew so far was recorded in the Purple Cloud Sword scripture. The 100 refinement method is to refine the golden core by 1,000 hammers. 1,000 hammers is one refinement. The spiritual consciousness is used as a hammer to refine the spiritual power. When the spiritual power is refined 100 times, it will transform to the extreme. At that time, the golden core formed will be the best. Chapter 203. Jiang Ci thought of the purple cloud sword scripture's core formation method. Let's see how difficult it is first. He needed to control his spiritual sense through the 100 refinement method seals and let his spiritual sense be like a hammer, tempering the spiritual power in his body over and over again. Spiritual power is like a piece of iron full of impurities. I want to use the hammer of spiritual sense to forge it into a sharp long sword. With this thought in mind, he kept making seals, and the spiritual sense in his mind began to slowly turn. Spiritual sense like a hammer. He tried hard to control it, hammering the spiritual power. Clang! 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 In his mind, there seemed to be the sound of iron hammering. For the whole day, he only completed 100 hammering. Based on this calculation, it will take about 3 years to complete the 100 refinement. Jiang Ci frowned slightly, then unfolded again. 3 years was not slow. After all, many cultivators could not reach the golden core stage in their lifetime. Jiang Ci planned to slowly grind, hammering 100 times a day. In addition, he also planned to take time to go to the wilderness to hunt monsters and harvest experience points. Because last night, he used up all his experience points, leaving nothing. Experience points, 0, this was the first time he used up all his experience points after becoming a martial artist. After having a clear cultivation plan, Jiang Ci began to calm down and cultivate in seclusion, not contacting anyone. He planned to develop steadily and quietly until he reached the golden core stage. As the saying goes, plans are not as good as changes. He had only been in seclusion for half a month, and an accident happened. New Moon Year 95, September 30th. The weather was clear, and the autumn air was refreshing. The huge Pak Sun province was surrounded by a 100-meter-high city wall, located on the plains. Inside the city wall was the home of mankind, the last place to live. Outside the city wall was the monster's paradise, the wilderness. In the 100 years since the recovery of Spirit Aura, Pak Sun province had been attacked by many monster tides, but so far, no monster had broken through the city. It sounded like a very praiseworthy thing. In fact, it was the tragedy of mankind. Because monsters were everywhere, ordinary people could only be trapped in small cities for the rest of their lives. Only martial artists had the strength to step out of the city and roam the wilderness. If they were not careful, they would be in danger of losing their lives. And Pak Sun province had paid a price of blood and tears to prevent the monsters from invading their city. Every time the beast tide attacked the city, countless ordinary soldiers, large numbers of military warriors, and ordinary warriors would lose their lives. Humans have been suffering from monsters for a long time. On this day, about 200 kilometers away from the north gate of Pak Sun province. In the wilderness, there was a mountain ridge that looked like the back of a dragon. It was bent across the wilderness. An environment that was shrouded in fog all year round was a warning to the world that this place was very dangerous. Although the secret territory of Dragon Spine Mountain was very close to Pak Sun province, the martial artists who wandered in the wilderness never came close. After 100 years, this place had become a paradise for monsters. Under the night sky, a hoarse laughter came from the fog-shrouded Dragon Spine Mountain. Ha ha ha. Golden Core. I've finally reached Jindan. A frightening aura spread throughout the area. The monsters that lived here, even if they were grade A, were trembling and did not dare to move. Whoosh! A terrifying 1,000-legged monster flew out from the fog and stood in the air. Its huge body that was 100 meters long shrank by 10 times in the blink of an eye. The aura of the golden figure became even stronger. If there were martial artists here, they would be able to recognize that this was an ironback golden centipede, the king of the centipede monsters. After 100 years of cultivation, I've finally reached Jindan. I, the golden centipede, am now the strongest monster of the demon clan. Ha ha ha. The ironback golden centipede laughed wildly and spread out its spiritual consciousness. All monsters within 100 miles of this place, gather. Today, I will slaughter a human city as a form of celebration. Boom! Under the 2 moons in the sky, thousands of monsters gathered in the boundless wilderness. Millions of monsters gathered to form an ocean. Since the recovery of spirit chi, the strongest beast tide on earth had been formed. Nature was more particular about the strong being respected. All the monsters had submitted to this golden core stage ironback golden centipede. Under its command, the beast tide moved toward Pak Sun province, which was closest to the Dragon Spine Mountain arcane realm. The satellites of the Daxia kingdom soon discovered this abnormal situation. The personnel in charge of monitoring the area quickly reported it. However, reporting to the higher-ups required time and process. Even if they took the express route, it would take at least 5 minutes. It would take that long to wait for the orders from the higher-ups. Moreover, it was late at night. The speed of mobilizing the army and martial artists would be slower than during the day. With the speed of the beast tide, it would take at most 20 minutes to cover the distance of 200 kilometers. The situation in Pak Sun province was precarious. Pak Sun province, Genten Budakan Tongtian district. At this time, Jiang Xi was seriously practicing the 100 refinements technique to reach the golden core stage as soon as possible. Buzz! Buzz! Suddenly, his tactical communications watch vibrated violently. This was a notification that would only appear in an emergency. Jiang Xi immediately answered the call. Huang Kuan's anxious voice came from the other side. Jiang Xi, the beast tide is gathering in the Dragon Spine Mountain arcane realm. It's almost Pak Sun province. It's very urgent. Go to the north gate of Pak Sun province as soon as possible. Okay. Jiang Xi did not waste any time. He grabbed the profound condensation sword and left the training room. Jiang Daodu was alerted by Jiang Xi's movement. She came down from the balcony on the 3rd floor. Brother? The beast tide is attacking the city. I have to go and help. I'm going too. You stay at home. Don't go anywhere. Jiang Xi said in a commanding tone. His expression was unprecedentedly stern. After saying that, he flew up and disappeared into the night sky in an instant. Jiang Daodu was a little disappointed. She thought that after reaching Class A, she would be able to follow in Jiang Xi's footsteps. Now, she realized that she was still very far away from Jiang Xi. She understood Jiang Xi's words. In some large-scale beast tides, even Class A martial artists could lose their lives. Moreover, the path of assassination that she cultivated was not suitable for fighting on the battlefield. At that moment, someone knocked on the door of the villa. Jiang Daodu ran over to open the door. She realized that it was Lu Shan and Qin Yuan. Both of them were fully armed. Where's Jiang Xi? The two of them asked. My brother is already on his way. Jiang Daodu replied. Then you must stay at home. Don't go anywhere. The two of them came quickly and left quickly. Before they left, they both reminded her. Jiang Daodu sighed softly. They both treated her like a child. However, she was also a Class A martial artist. However, she also understood that she could not cause trouble for Jiang Xi. However, she really wanted to know the current situation of the beast tide. She was worried about Jiang Xi's safety. Right, the military sent someone to open up a satellite channel last time. Jiang Daodu's eyes lit up. She ran to open the computer and entered the dedicated satellite channel. As Jiang Xi's identity was different, their family's network had been opened to the highest level of access. They could see a lot of information that ordinary people did not know. Such a big matter would definitely have a special news broadcast. Chapter 204. As expected, Jiang Dudu soon saw the live satellite feed outside Pak Sun province. In the feed, the beast tide was like a sea. There were all kinds of monsters, including many A-class and B-class monsters. What's that? Jiang Dudu's expression changed. In the image, she suddenly saw a golden figure with 1,000 feet flying in the sky and disappearing in a flash. Because the beast tied on the ground was too loud, very few people paid attention to the situation in the sky. In addition, the golden figure was very fast in the dark. If one's eyesight was poor, they would not have noticed it at all. However, Jiang Dudu was an assassin, so she was good at observing the details. She immediately noticed that the monster flying in the sky did not have wings. It was not a flying monster. It's an iron-backed golden centipede in the golden core stage. Brother! Don't let anything happen to you. Jiang Xi had explained the realms of cultivators to her in detail, so she knew how to identify those in the golden core stage. Jiang Dudu knew very well that Jiang Xi had not formed his golden core yet. Although Jiang Xi had told her that he was not afraid of those in the golden core stage, who knew what would happen if they really encountered one? She immediately wanted to use her tactical communications watch to call Jiang Xi and ask Jiang Xi to come back. However, at that moment, she saw Jiang Xi's figure on the satellite feed. He was flying toward the iron-backed golden centipede in the sky. Brother! Jiang Dudu became even more nervous and stopped dialing. In just 10 breaths, Jiang Xi arrived at the north gate of Pak Sun province. At that moment, the Northern Mountain Army's military camp had entered a state of war. All the soldiers and martial artists had gathered. The military camp's back was against the tall city wall. There were huge cannons on the other 3 sides, ready to fire at any time. Rumble. Under the night sky, the ground was shaking. On the horizon in the distance, a black wave of beasts was sweeping over like a black wave. A golden core stage monster. Jiang Xi's eyes flashed. He immediately noticed the iron-backed golden centipede. Buzz buzz buzz. However, at this moment, Jiang Xi's tactical communications watch rang again. After the call was connected, Huang Kun said anxiously, Jiang Xi, we just saw from the satellite image that there is a golden core stage monster. Get out of there. Rest assured, Elder Huang. Jiang Xi hung up the phone with a smile. Before he finished, his tactical communications watch rang again. This time, it was Shen Tian calling. Jiang Xi, a golden core great demon is not someone you can deal with. Don't be impulsive. I'm on my way. Remember, your life is the most important. Shen Tian's tone was unusually serious. Thank you, head gym master. Jiang Xi shook his head. He really couldn't back out this time. If he didn't do anything, a golden core monster could destroy half of Pak Sun province in an instant. At this juncture, apart from him, no one else could stop this golden core greater demon. This is a good opportunity to see how my combat power compares to a real golden core cultivator. Jiang Xi was full of fighting spirit at this moment. The data on the interface was only theoretical. The actual strength would depend on his performance. Whoosh! Under the gaze of everyone in the Northern Mountains Army, Jiang Xi flew toward the iron-backed golden centipede. The wind was strong, and the sword was cold. It's Jiang Xi. Zhao Yan, the commander of the Northern Mountains Army, saw Jiang Xi's figure. His eyes were full of hope. With Jiang Xi around, he was relieved. A spirit-nurturing expert was enough to ensure that the city gate of Pak Sun province would not fall. Whoosh! At this moment, another figure rushed from Pak Sun province and arrived at the Northern Mountains Army's North Gate barracks. The figure stood still. It was a kind-looking old man. Greetings, Elder Han. Zhao Yan quickly bowed. The person who came was Han Wenju, the spirit-nurturing expert of the Han family in Pak Sun province. Han Wenju waved his hand. No need to be so polite. This time, I will guard this place with Jiang Xi to ensure the safety of Pak Sun province. By the way, where is Jiang Xi? He has already gone to meet them. As expected of a young man. So combative. Let me take a look first. Han Wenju stood on a high ground and looked down. When he saw the black mass of the beast tide approaching Pak Sun province, his face became serious. The scale of the beast tide was too large. There were more than 1,000,000 monsters. This was definitely the largest beast tide since the recovery of spiritual qi, and it was also the strongest one. Then, Han Wenju saw Jiang Xi's figure flying under the night sky, and the expression on his face relaxed slightly. With Jiang Xi in him, two spirit-nurturing cultivators, no matter how strong the beast tide was, they could ensure that Pak Sun province would not be breached. But in the next moment, he caught a glimpse of the iron-backed golden centipede that was flying at high speed. Golden Core Stage. Han Wenju's face changed drastically. Jiang Xi, come back quickly. He roared. But at this time, Jiang Xi was only 10,000 meters away from the iron-backed golden centipede. Both sides stopped at the same time and stood still in the air. Human, you are in the golden core stage? The iron-backed golden centipede spoke in human language. Its hoarse voice was like thunder, echoing across the land. This scene was also captured by foreign satellites and quickly spread around the world. Suddenly, the world was in an uproar. What did they see? What did they hear? A centipede with a length of 10 meters could fly and talk. How terrifying! The people of the Xia kingdom were the most familiar with this. This kind of situation had long appeared in myths and legends. They knew that this centipede was no longer an ordinary monster, but a demon. Under the gaze of tens of thousands of people, Jiang Xi smiled faintly and said, "Can't I fly if I'm not in the golden core stage? How dare you? Then today's massacre will begin with you." The iron-backed golden centipede laughed maniacally. Its monstrous aura suddenly rose in the night sky. Even from 10,000 meters away, one could feel its powerful murderous aura. Roar! The iron-backed golden centipede let out a thunderous roar, and golden flames spewed out of its mouth. Jiang Xi was not afraid at all. Under everyone's worried gaze, he unsheathed his sword and instantly condensed a huge sword light gale true intent. This was the sword of speed. Accompanied by the gale, the sword light was as fast as lightning. It violently collided with the iron-backed golden centipede's golden flames. Boom, boom, boom. In the night sky, there was a violent explosion. The blazing flames lit up the land. So powerful. They are actually evenly matched? Han Wenju and Zhao Yan were shocked. They were not shocked by the iron-backed golden centipede, but by Jiang Xi's strength that was beyond their imagination. A spirit nourishment stage against a golden core stage? At this moment, the earth trembled even more violently. The beast tide was coming. The two of them could only retract their attention from the sky. Since Jiang Xi had blocked the golden core stage demon, then they could focus on dealing with the beast tide. Aim at these beasts for me, and blast them to smithereens. Zhao Yan mustered up his strength and roared loudly throughout the entire military camp. Boom, boom, boom. The giant cannons roared in unison. The Vulcan cannon shells with flames fell into the midst of the beast tide and exploded with a loud bang. As long as the beasts were not above Class C, they were instantly blasted into pieces by the power of the giant cannons. After each explosion, there would be hundreds of beasts in the surrounding area that would lose their lives. However, this number was nothing compared to the million-strong beast tide. Chapter 205. The beast tide continued to rush toward the north gate of Pak Sun province. Among the beast tide, the Grade A and Grade B beasts caused the most damage to the Northern Mountain Army. Leave 3 Grade A martial artists to guard the camp. The rest of the Grade A martial artists, follow me into the beast tide and kill the Grade B beasts. Han Wenju shouted. His white-haired appearance did not affect his courage as a martial artist. Then, he led 10 Grade A martial artists, including He Changxing, Chen Yuan, and Lu Shan, out of the camp and into the dangerous beast tide. At the same time, in the night sky, the iron-backed golden centipede was also shocked. It did not expect that its best move after reaching the golden core stage would be blocked by a spirit-gathering stage cultivator. He must be the top genius of the human race. It was very excited and full of murderous intent. It danced with its 1,000 legs and hundreds of golden rays shot toward Jiang Xi. The power of each golden light was so great that it could easily kill a cultivator of the spirit nourishment stage. Jiang Xi was expressionless. His body flickered in the air, and the profound stasis sword swept across the sky. The profound stasis sword met the golden rays head-on. Clang! 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 All the attacks were blocked easily. So this is the power of an early-stage golden core stage monster. Jiang Xi shook his head gently. Human, you are too arrogant. The ironback golden centipede was enraged by Jiang Xi's words. It had just reached the golden core stage and thought that it was the most powerful monster in the demon clan. However, it was looked down upon by a human in the late-stage spirit-gathering stage. Let's stop here. Jiang Xi shook his head gently. He had lost interest in the battle. It was not challenging at all. It was boring. The ironback golden centipede was even angrier. Who was the real golden core stage cultivator? Roar! It looked up to the sky and roared. Its 10-meter-long 1,000-legged body shrunk again by 10 times, becoming only 1 meter long. Suddenly, its aura became even more ferocious. Its body seemed to be covered in golden flames. Jiang Xi's expression did not change. He focused on the profound stasis sword. Sword intent. An inexplicable Taoist rhyme condensed on the sword. The sword turned into a shocking sword shadow. Although the sword shadow was less than 10 meters long, which was dozens of times smaller than Xian Tian's saber intent, its power was at least 10 times greater. This was the difference in sword intent level. The higher the realm, the higher the degree of condensation of true intent. What move is this? The ironback golden centipede felt a strong sense of threat. Why should I be afraid of a mere spirit nourishment stage human? The ironback golden centipede once again spewed out a powerful golden flame. At the same time, it also flew over in the air, wanting to use the tyrannical body of the golden core stage to directly kill Riverward. Slash! But right at this time, Riverward gave a light cry, the abyss-condensing sword slashing out. Puff! The sword shadow formed by the sword will seem to be able to cut through everything. It swept past the golden flames spewed out by the ironback golden centipede. The ferocious golden flames suddenly vanished into thin air. God! The ironback golden centipede, which had already closed in with the ferocious golden flames, was shocked. That was its strongest attack. Even an early golden core stage cultivator would be seriously injured if they were hit by it. But now, it was destroyed by the sword shadow. However, the sword shadow did not disappear. It continued to slash at it. Danger! Roar! It roared again. Its 1,000 legs danced violently. Its body emitted a layer of golden light. That was its strongest defense. The sword shadow slashed down. Crack! The golden light suddenly dissipated, and the monstrous ferocious flames and the terrifying aura that spread across the land disappeared. You killed an early golden core stage ironback golden centipede. Experience points plus 1,000. In the air, 2 half-meter-long golden shadows were falling down. Jiang Xi took a step forward and caught the corpse of the ironback golden centipede. Such a big centipede. It's good stuff. Casually killing a golden core great demon was nothing in Riverward's eyes. That was the truth. That was because he had only used 70% of his combat power. His current strength could be divided into 3 levels. The true intent of Gale gave him 10 times the spiritual power amplitude. That was only half of his combat power. But at the current level of the sword intent, the spirit energy amplification provided was more than 14 times a level higher. However, the true intent of sword was only 70% of his combat power. Only when the true intent of Gale and true intent of sword were used at the same time, it was his full strength. That was why he was so relaxed. Unlike Riverward's relaxed attitude, at this moment, people all over the world were stunned. The battle that happened in just a few minutes was broadcasted live by other countries' satellites and spread to all parts of the world. A powerful monster that could fly and talk was easily killed by a human. Who was this human youth? Almost everyone was thinking about that. Jiang Xi had only been cultivating for a short time. His reputation was only spread in the martial arts world. The ordinary people in the outside world did not know who he was. Even in the martial arts world, many people had only heard of Jiang Xi. They did not know what Jiang Xi looked like. At the same time, many powerhouses in Pak Sun province were shocked when they saw the scene. Is this kid still human? Zhao Yan, who was commanding the battles in the barracks, was stunned by Jiang Xi. Freak. Terrifying. Fortunately, he's human. Han Wenju sighed as he killed a Class A monster with a wave of his hand. A spirit-nurturing cultivator killed a golden core cultivator. If Jiang Xi was a monster, then humans were doomed. At this time, the beast tide was surging. In just a few minutes, the Northern Mountain Army had lost tens of thousands of soldiers and martial artists. Only 100,000 of the beast tide had died. There were still 900,000 left. Boom! 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 The giant cannons kept roaring. It was as if they were pouring out the anger of humans. Kill these beasts. Kill to your heart's content. When Jiang Xi killed a golden core monster with a single slash, everyone was excited and roaring. The morale of the army was high. In the night sky, Jiang Xi saw this scene and heard these voices. He was also filled with heroic spirit. It was because of these people who were bathed in blood that the tens of thousands of people in the city were able to keep the lights on. Kill! Jiang Xi also shouted and flew down from the sky. He waved his hand and slashed out a huge sword light. Each sword light was 100 meters long and landed in the middle of the beast tide. To deal with these monsters below the spirit-nurturing level, the sword light did not need to be so condensed. A large-scale attack was enough. Boom! 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 The huge sword light exploded one after another. In an instant, tens of thousands of monsters were blown into pieces. They could not be more dead. This was awesome. Jiang Xi was very excited. His experience points soared so fast that the interface notification did not even have time to broadcast it. As for those A-class, B-class, and C-class monsters with high intelligence, they had long since panicked. When the iron-backed golden centipedes were killed, they knew that the situation was not good. This beast tide attack had just begun. They were afraid that it would end soon. These powerful monsters were now worried that they would not be able to escape. Whoosh! At this time, another stream of light flew over from the horizon. There's another golden core cultivator. Everyone was shocked. Was it a monster or a human? You're tuning into the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.